Douluo, destroying Yu Xiaogang, I'm invincible. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 1 Yu Xiaogang, I'm in 20th. There is nothing wrong with me. Zhang Tianyu slowly opened his eyes, and then he was refreshed. Although it was a different time, it was the same chasho. No, it was the same street, the street of Notting City. He stood up and looked at his body. Sure enough, he had shrunk to the state of 6 years old again. Mom, I have become young again. Good. See the haha part ended here, and Zhang Tianyu's eyes turned cold. In the previous life, he also traveled here, turned into a 6-year-old child, joined Notting College, lurked beside Tang San and Yu Xiaogang, took on the tasks issued by the system, and used various methods to harm these two people, making them suffer various disasters and pains. In return, Zhang Tianyu would become stronger little by little. All this was originally very beautiful. Tang San and Yu Xiaogang were tortured to death. Zhang Tianyu also made great progress and was promoted to the title Douluo. It seemed that he was about to break through the air and become a god. As a result, the men behind Tang San appeared. Azure god, Poseidon, and Douluo will that appeared inexplicably. They had no martial ethics and attacked Zhang Tianyu, a 16-year-old comrade. At the critical moment, the system took action and took Zhang Tianyu out of their ambush circle and returned to the origin of everything. That is, the time when Zhang Tianyu just crossed over and the place where he landed. Except for Zhang Tianyu and the system, the memories of all others were reset. The price is that all the power Zhang Tianyu obtained was temporarily sealed, and he needed to complete the system's tasks, unlock it bit by bit, and finally get his own power back. Zhang Tianyu shook his neck. It didn't matter to him to go through Douluo again. He originally planned to have fun in Douluo, playing the second and third rounds, etc. It didn't matter that the power was sealed. He liked to open the cheats and kill the sky, the earth, and the air, and he also liked to accumulate slowly and grow step by step. What really made him angry was that the group of gods and Douluo will openly broke the rules and joined forces to ambush and attack him, a mortal. Originally, he was only dealing with Yu Xiaogang and Tang San, and he didn't have much hatred for the gods. As long as the gods didn't cause trouble for him, he wouldn't take the initiative to cause trouble. But he didn't expect that the gods would keep talking about the divine world's commandments while openly breaking the commandments to deal with him. You want to play? This time I'll play with you. Zhang Tianyu looked up at the sky with a cold light in his eyes. 2 streets away from Notting City College, Yu Xiaogang finished strolling and walked slowly towards the college. Hiding in the dark and looking at this normal Yu Xiaogang, Zhang Tianyu showed a kind smile at the corner of his mouth. Finally, I saw this normal Yu Xiaogang again. Although Yu Xiaogang in front of him was a waste, he always looked calm and confident, calm and unhurried, as if everything was under control. It must be said that this state is quite bluffing. People who don't know him will probably be bluffed by him like Tang San and regard him as a hermit. Looking at the leisurely Yu Xiaogang, Zhang Tianyu reached out and touched his chin. At this time, the long-lost system prompt sounded. Prompt, received a task. Wait a moment, Zhang Tianyu said in his heart. Are you going to trick him again? The system replied, not only that, not only to trick him, but also to make him a joke, to be ridiculed and laughed at by everyone. Zhang Tianyu showed a very kind smile on his face. That's exactly what I want. And Tang San too. Damn it, the men behind him dared to trick me, then I must get back at them. This time I not only want to make him and Tang San happy, I will also completely destroy them bit by bit. Prompt, received the task. I'm back again. Task goal, give Yu Xiaogang a meeting gift. Let him guess who is back. No limit on the method, no limit on the means, no limit on the consequences, but it cannot cause his death and make him the fun of the people around him. Task reward, activate. First martial soul Huangquan, obtain innate full soul power, and obtain the task item, martial soul hall certificate. The spirit hall certificate will indicate that the spirit is wooden sword, and the spirit power is level 3. The system will also make a corresponding disguise for the host. Zhang Tianyu heard this and opened the attribute list. Sure enough, name, Zhang Tianyu, level 0 spirit, none good guy. This reset is too clean. All reset to the original state. Hint, host, if not, it is impossible to completely hide your whereabouts in front of the Douluo will. Understand? Zhang Tianyu nodded, closed the attribute interface, opened the system mall, and started searching for props. It's easy to make him a joke for others. It's too easy. Soon he chose a prop. This system is still very considerate. Even after the reset, all the props can still be tried for free once. Awesome. Select the prop, aim at Yu Xiaogang, and click to use. Breathing the familiar breath of the 3rd Street in Notting City, and feeling the gentle sunshine in the morning, Yu Xiaogang showed a trace of laziness and calmness on his face. Although he was a loser, and although he had endured a lot of ridicule, taunting and contempt in the early years, but fortunately, no one would laugh at him here. At least, no one dared to laugh at him blatantly. Anyway, he hadn't heard any voices laughing at him for a long time. It was great to have such a life without anyone laughing at him. Just as he was thinking this, suddenly, Pucci, a sneer suddenly came from behind him. He frowned immediately, and when he turned around, he saw a pedestrian behind him covering his mouth and laughing, looking at him, as if he was watching a funny joke. Yu Xiaogang's brows frowned even tighter. What's wrong with this person? Seeing Yu Xiaogang frowning, the pedestrian coughed, stopped laughing, and quickly turned and left. But Yu Xiaogang found that, although the man turned and left, he still looked back at him a few times, laughing as he looked. You are sick. He cursed in his heart, turned around and continued to walk towards Notting College. However, after walking a few steps, he heard the sneer from behind again. Look at that person. He turned around again, and saw 2 young girls looking at him. Seeing him turn around, the 2 girls also stopped laughing, turned around and left quickly, laughing as they walked, and whispered something. What the hell? Exclamation mark. Yu Xiaogang was puzzled. He looked down at his clothes. There was nothing wrong. He took out a small mirror from his arms, and looked at his face. It was normal. What's going on? At this time, there was another sneer from behind him. This time, the sound was very loud. Yu Xiaogang turned around, and saw several children holding candied horse looking at him and laughing. Yu Xiaogang couldn't help it and asked, what are you laughing at? The children laughed even louder, made a few faces at him, and then ran away laughing. Yu Xiaogang was completely confused and whispered to himself, what's wrong with the people on this street today? What's wrong with them? He didn't want to pay attention to these people, but he didn't expect that the further he walked, the more sneers he heard from behind him. Every time he turned around, those who laughed at him would immediately stop laughing and look elsewhere or turn away. He asked a few people, and they all said that they were not laughing at him. He just felt a little irritated. This feeling was like the feeling when others pointed fingers at him and mocked him after they knew that he had turned from the young master of the Blow Lightning family into a big waste. It was like a thorn in the back. He quickened his pace and walked towards Notting College. However, he could still hear all kinds of sneers behind him. Yu Xiaogang clenched his fists slowly, and veins began to appear on the back of his hands. What's wrong with these people? Why are they laughing at me? But he couldn't get angry, because when he asked others, they said they were not laughing at him. What else could he do? He couldn't say, you are going too far. I have tolerated you for a long time. You are obviously laughing at me. You never stopped, right? In that case, it would look like he was making trouble for no reason. Finally, he passed the intersection and the spire of the main building of Notting College was in sight. Yu Xiaogang felt a little relieved. But at this time, he heard sneers again behind him. He finally couldn't stand it anymore, and turned back to glare at the young men. What are you laughing at? This voice was very loud, and attracted the attention of many people. Many people looked at Yu Xiaogang, and then some people's expressions changed, and then they all laughed. Yu Xiaogang was so angry that he was about to speak, but the boss of the shop at the corner of the street was stunned and hurried out and said, isn't this the master? Master, why is there a piece of paper behind you? What? Yu Xiaogang was stunned. There is a piece of paper? The boss helped him tear off the paper. Yu Xiaogang took it and looked at it. His eyes suddenly turned black. He almost died of anger on the spot. There were 6 big words written on the paper. I'm a big what? There was also a picture of a dog peeing on a street lamp next to it, and the dog's face had a lifelike silly smile. Yu Xiaogang's eyes really turned black. Damn it. No wonder those people were looking at me and laughing. No wonder. Damn it. Who the hell is this? Who the hell is so disgusting and boring that he put such a thing on my back? Exclamation mark. Yu Xiaogang's mood at this time is simply indescribable. The previous second, he was still a master with a calm and wise temperament, and then turned around. I'm a big what be this is a huge contrast. What's going on, master? The boss looked at the paper, not knowing whether to laugh or snort. Yu Xiaogang said nothing. With a dark face, he took the paper and left quickly. In the shadow of the corner, Zhang Tianyu laughed happily. Although this trick is a bit childish, I didn't expect the effect to be surprisingly good. Hint, congratulations, mission completed. Get reward. Master. Huangquan greets the master. Listening to the familiar voice, and feeling the familiar breath, Zhang Tianyu looked up, and looked at Tang San and old Jack standing at the gate of Notting College, and a kind smile appeared on his face again. Tang San, San, we meet again. Don't worry, I will take better care of you this time. Chapter 2, Quality Tang San, Endless Joy. Looking at the little Tang San standing next to the old village chief Jack, Zhang Tianyu couldn't help but sigh. I haven't seen this normal Tang San for a long time. In the last life, he and Tang San were good friends on the surface, but in fact he hurt Tang San's heart every day behind his back, and made Tang San very upset, and even almost made Tang San and Yu Xiaogang turn against each other several times. And in the last life, the reason why Zhang Tianyu was plotted against by those gods was because of Tang San. So in this life, San, I promise to make you live happier than in the last life. Activate the task. Every injustice has its perpetrator. Task goal, pit Tang San, and create trouble for him. No limit on the method, means, or consequences, but it cannot cause his death or expose yourself. Task reward, unlocking degree of the first martial spirit in the first soul skill plus 50%, reward points plus 10. Oh, the reward points are finally here. But why does the first soul skill have to be unlocked so slowly? Atong, you have changed. Zhang Tianyu sighed in his heart. In the past, you were given a spirit ring directly, but now you have to unlock it according to the percentage. Hint, host, you will know why after you unlock this spirit skill. Well, I hope I won't be disappointed. Then, Zhang Tianyu looked at Tang San not far away, and a kind smile appeared on his face. He had already thought about what kind of props to use to play with Tang San. After this rebirth, the prop mall has also made some updates and changes, and many new props that were not available before have been added, just like the extra note behind Yu Xiaogang before, which is a newly added small prop. Although there is no substantial damage, it is extremely insulting. This time, Zhang Tianyu will naturally not be polite to Tang San. He must use a prop that can cause him trouble, and it must be endless trouble. It's you. Choose a prop, select Tang San, and use it. At the gate of Notting College, it was still the familiar doorman, with the familiar foul mouth. Can a golden phoenix come out of a grass nest? There are people with spirit power in a small village? The academy hasn't had part-time students for many years. Are you fakes? Old Jack swallowed his anger and handed him the Spirit Hall certificate. Spirit Blue Silver Grass and innate full spirit power. Funny, this is really ridiculous. I have been working as a doorman in the academy for 4 years, and I have never heard of a student with innate full spirit power. This kid's spirit is blue silver grass. How can it be full spirit power? I think this Spirit Hall certificate must be forged by you. Old Jack was so angry that his beard was shaking. Just as he was about to speak, Tang San took a step forward, pointed at the doorman and said, "Stop talking about your spiral spring and autumn thunder gabba chain turning bullshit." Doorman. Old Jack. Zhang Tianyu suddenly covered his mouth with his hand. Damn, it's really annoying. Fortunately, I was quick-eyed and quick-handed, otherwise I almost laughed out loud. Open your eyes wide, find a toilet plunger and suck out the eye mucus in your eyes. Take a closer look to see if this certificate is forged. The concierge was furious. "You stinky boy, you dare to scold me?" After saying that, He kicked Tang San. Tang San was prepared. He grabbed his leg and pushed the concierge to the ground. The concierge was stunned and stood up quickly. "You are looking for death, stop." Yu Xiaogang appeared in front of everyone. After experiencing the note incident just now, Yu Xiaogang's emotions were very unstable and he was in a very bad mood. He glanced at the concierge and Tang San with a cold face. "What's going on?" The concierge immediately nodded and bowed. "Master, you are back. They came to the academy to cause trouble and scolded me. If you keep talking nonsense, I will pull out the rubber band on your mother's pants and tie your mouth," Tang San said angrily. Yu Xiaogang, hiss, "Why does this kid's mouth smell a little bit?" Zhang Tianyu, who was hiding in the corner not far away, covered his mouth tightly. "Damn it. Tang San's language skills are really amazing." The concierge immediately said angrily, "Master, listen. Is this something a child can say? This guy curses more than me. Is he 6 years old?" Yu Xiaogang rubbed his eyebrows, listened to the cause and effect of old Jack's story, and said to old Jack, "Old man, please show me the spirit hall certificate." Originally, because of Tang San's foul mouth, he didn't have a good impression of Tang San, but when he saw this certificate, his eyes suddenly lit up. "Innate full spirit power!" Exclamation mark. "This is possible. It is true, old sir. I apologize to you on behalf of the academy for what happened just now. Leave this child to me." "No need to apologize. No need to apologize. We are not good either. This child has a bad mouth. It is an old problem. Master, please bear with me. I will trouble you with this child. Xiao-san, follow the master in, but you must be obedient." Zhang Tianyu laughed. Tang San's foul mouth is not an old problem, but the effect of props. Of course, you ordinary people will not understand. However, what disappointed Zhang Tianyu was that, after listening to old Jack's words, Tang San just nodded, but did not speak. "What a pity. I still want to see your language art again." Seeing that Yu Xiaogang was going to take Tang San into the academy, Zhang Tianyu immediately took out the Wuhan Hall certificate of the task reward and walked over. "Excuse me, is this not in college?" Yu Xiaogang looked at him. "Yes, what do you need?" Zhang Tianyu took out the certificate and smoothly followed the two into the academy. After that, it was just the plot. Yu Xiaogang and Tang San were talking and chatting. Zhang Tianyu, who only had level 3 spirit power, had no sense of existence at all. He was just a little transparent person following the two of them. Being a little transparent is good, low-key and not attracting attention. Soon, the key point came. Yu Xiaogang raised his hand and rubbed Tang San's head like old Jack and said, "You are gifted and so smart. It seems that I have to be persistent for once. After all, you are also the third person with twin martial spirits in the past 100 years." Tang San was shocked and subconsciously said, "Bullshit, spicy and rainbow farts." Yu Xiaogang. Zhang Tianyu immediately turned his back to the two of them and quickly distanced himself. He was afraid that the two of them would see him laughing wildly. Yu Xiaogang's face turned the color of leeks. "TSK, why is this kid's mouth so stinky? Child, I'll give you a piece of advice. Try to control your mouth in the future, otherwise it may cause you trouble," Yu Xiaogang said earnestly. Tang San didn't say anything this time, staring at him with a wary look in his eyes. "Are you curious about why I know you have twin spirits? It's simple. It's because of this proof." After this passionate episode, the plot continued. Soon, Tang San was convinced and knelt down to become his disciple. Yu Xiaogang looked like he had succeeded in his conspiracy. P.S. The main task these days is to save manuscripts. Starting from the 1st of next month, there will be at least 2 updates every day. The new book is on the way. I hope you will enjoy reading it. Chapter 3. Congratulations. Tang San got beaten. After getting up, Tang San turned to look at Zhang Tianyu. When he found that Zhang Tianyu was some distance away from them, the alertness in his eyes disappeared immediately. If Zhang Tianyu heard the secret of my twin martial spirits, he would be dead. Tang San said in his heart, he is just a kid with a wooden sword martial spirit and a soul power of only level 3. It is too easy for me to take his life. Seeing that such a good seedling was successfully fooled by himself, although Yu Xiaogang had no expression on his face, he was already laughing wildly in his heart. At this moment, the anger brought by the paper "I'm a fool" on his back also disappeared. He looked at Tang San with shining eyes and said in his heart, "This time, I must prove to everyone that my theory is correct." As for Zhang Tianyu, who was not far away, Yu Xiaogang never even glanced at him. With only a wooden sword spirit and a spirit power of only level 3, he would definitely not achieve anything in the future. It is true that he said, "There are no useless spirits, only useless spirit masters," but whoever believes it is an idiot. Teaching department. Yu Xiaogang put the certificate on the table and said to the elderly teacher, "Director Su, these two are part-time students this year. Please help them register." Director Su said with a smile, "Master, why are you here? You are a rare guest. Please sit down for a while." Yu Xiaogang shook his head and said to Tang San, "Register here by yourself, and these teachers will tell you what to do. I'll leave first, and I'll find you later." Tang San nodded and said respectfully, "Goodbye, teacher." Yu Xiaogang smiled, touched his head, and turned away. Hearing Tang San addressing Yu Xiaogang, Director Su seemed very interested. "Young man, you call master teacher? He is not a teacher in our academy." Tang San said, "But he is my teacher." Director Su was stunned. "You worship master as your teacher?" His expression was a little strange. It was an expression of wanting to laugh, but holding it back. Zhang Tianyu asked, "Is there anything wrong, teacher?" Looking at Tang San, who was born with full soul power, but whose martial soul was the useless blue silver grass, Director Su and others felt a little sorry, but at least they felt sorry for Tang San. But facing Zhang Tianyu, who had a wooden sword martial soul and a soul power of only level 3, they were too lazy to even feel sorry. With those teachers looking at him like a ZZ, Zhang Tianyu and Tang San completed the enrollment procedures, received the school uniforms, and walked out of the teaching office. Just like the original plot, as soon as they walked out of the teaching office, they heard several teachers ridicule, "Master, what kind of famous person is he? Ha ha ha, he is a famous clown, right? Everyone just treats him as a joke." After hearing these ridicules, Zhang Tianyu watched Tang San's originally calm expression suddenly explode, his eyebrows twisted together, and he turned around and pushed open the door, shouting at the teachers in the teaching office, "What are you laughing at? Turtle son. Fuck you." Swish. The air was quiet in an instant. The teachers in the teaching office all looked at Tang San, who was cursing with a confused look on their faces. "This kid has a bit of a stinky mouth." Zhang Tianyu was stunned for several seconds before he suddenly reacted and quickly covered his mouth. "Damn. I almost forgot. Tang San is from the Bashu Tang sect. What place is Bashu? That's Chuan. No wonder it's such a standard Chuan curse. Haha, shit, awesome. Good curse. But if that's the case, Tang San will get beaten, right?" Sure enough, just as this thought came to mind, a powerful momentum burst out from the teaching department. Tang San was caught off guard and was blown away on the spot with a muffled groan, and his back hit the wall of the corridor opposite the door. However, at this moment, Director Su's originally angry expression suddenly became a little surprised. He was scolded by Tang San just now, and he was furious. He completely ignored Zhang Tianyu standing next to Tang San and directly exerted a momentum attack. Logically, Tang San should be blown away with Zhang Tianyu. But at this moment, he found that Tang San was blown away, but Zhang Tianyu, who was standing next to Tang San, and had a soul power of only level 3, stood there like an old tree taking root, not moving at all, not even his hair in the corner of his clothes moved. It was as if the impact of the spirit power he released just now was completely ignored by Zhang Tianyu. This kid seems to be a little bit wrong. Director Su's eyes were filled with doubt. But soon he regained consciousness and glared at Tang San. "Tang San, as a student, you dare to insult the teacher? You are so brave. Fuck you. It was obviously you who insulted my teacher first." A trace of blood flowed from the corner of Tang San's mouth. He covered his chest and glared at Director Su without giving in. Boom. Tang San was once again blown away by the spirit power that Director Su burst out. This time it was heavier than the last time. Tang San's back hit the wall, directly creating a crack in the wall. When he collided with the wall, he also spurted out a mouthful of blood on the spot. If you dare to insult the teacher again, I can directly expel you and kick you out of the academy," Director Su said angrily. While Zhang Tianyu was mourning for Director Su in his heart, he also rushed to Tang San to help him up and whispered, "Stop talking. Director Su is too strong. We are brave men and don't want to suffer a loss in front of us." Tang San raised his head, looked at him with some gratitude, and then wisely chose to shut up. Of course, he didn't shut up on his own initiative, but he rolled his eyes and fainted on the spot. Zhang Tianyu saw that Director Su probably wouldn't see the sun tomorrow. At this time, Tang Heo must be watching in the dark. Seeing Tang San being beaten like this, he would definitely not let Director Su go. Alas, a second of deep silence for our beloved Director Su. Then the question is, Tang Heo saw his son's mouth full of powder and his mouth smeared with honey. Wouldn't he feel strange? Answer, of course not, because Zhang Tianyu used the trick prop, Stinky Mouth Capsule Tang San Exclusive Edition, on him. Foul Mouth Capsule Tang San Special Edition can only be used by Tang San, and it will take effect permanently after use. Under normal circumstances, Tang San will not take the initiative to curse, but once Tang San's emotions fluctuate greatly, he will be unable to control his temper and spit out foul words. It comes with the effect of consciousness confusion, which forcibly changes the cognition of all those who know Tang San. In their cognition, Tang San is just a foul-mouthed teenager who is proficient in cursing. Therefore, when they were at the gate of the academy, old Jack would say, "This kid's mouth is a bit of that, an old problem." In fact, Tang San used to be normal and didn't curse at all. It was the effect of consciousness confusion that forcibly changed these people's cognition. The props produced by the system are so powerful. The voice of the system sounded in Zhang Tianyu's mind, "Congratulations. The injustice has its perpetrator. Mission has been completed, and it has successfully caused a lot of trouble for Tang San. Obtained mission rewards. Unlocking degree of the first martial soul and the first soul skill plus 50%. Reward points plus 10. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 4 I'm Your Husband, Idiot. In Yu Xiaogang's office. That's basically what happened. Zhang Tianyu roughly explained the situation, and the expression on Yu Xiaogang's face suddenly became interesting. "Okay, I got it." Yu Xiaogang clenched his fists. "What happens next has nothing to do with you. You can go to the dormitory to report." After saying that, he turned and left the office, striding towards the direction of the teaching department. Zhang Tianyu looked at Tang San lying on the sofa with concern. After being treated by the teachers of the healing department of the academy, Tang San's condition has stabilized, but he has not woken up yet. Zhang Tianyu paused for a few seconds and turned to leave. Then he quickened his pace and walked towards the dormitory building. He wasted a lot of time. Would he miss Xiao Wu? Would Xiao Wu have fought with Wang Sheng now? But he soon calmed down again. Even if they fought, Wang Sheng, a fool, would definitely not be Xiao Wu's opponent. Sure enough, after arriving at the dormitory, he saw that everyone bowed to Xiao Wu in unison and shouted loudly, "Hello, boss. You have to call me Sister Xiao Wu." Xiao Wu pinched this, and her scorpion braid swayed behind her back, and she scolded in a coquettish voice, "Hello, Sister Xiao Wu." Everyone immediately changed their words. "Not bad, not bad, very good, very good." Xiao Wu looked proud, and then suddenly her expression was retracted. She turned around and saw Zhang Tianyu, who had already walked into the dormitory. Xiao Wu's eyes lit up first. "This boy is very good looking. At least better looking than other boys in this dormitory." "Who are you?" Xiao Wu asked. Hearing this, everyone immediately looked up, and they were also a little confused when they saw the unfamiliar Zhang Tianyu. "I'm Zhang Tianyu, a new student who just came today." Zhang Tianyu made a brief self-introduction. "Oh, then what kind of martial spirit do you have, and what level of soul power is it?" Xiao Wu asked. "Wooden sword, level 3. Upon hearing this, everyone immediately showed an expression of understanding. Then there is no need to compete. That's right, there is no need to compete. Just come and recognize the boss. You have a pig brain. What boss? You should call Sister Zhao. Zhang Tianyu looked puzzled. What do you mean by no need to compete? What do you mean by recognizing the boss? What are you talking about? Wang Sheng said, this is the rule of the 7th dormitory. After hearing the rules, Zhang Tianyu suddenly realized, so that's it. Come and meet Sister Zhao when you know it. Zhang Tianyu smiled indifferently, spread his hands to both sides, and the yellow spring sword appeared between his hands with a trace of black air. Seeing this scene, everyone was stunned. Wang Sheng asked, why? You want to try your level 3 soul power with Sister Zhao? Is there a problem? Zhang Tianyu asked back. There was a moment of silence, and the next second, everyone except Zhao burst into laughter. You don't know what you can do. Stupid. You've lost your mind. Even Brother Sheng is no match for Zhao. What's the use of your level 3 soul power? You're courting death. Come on, Zhao. Step on him. Zhao stood up. Your name is Zhang Tianyu, right? Okay, you're quite courageous. I'll be gentle later. You'd better go all out. Zhang Tianyu stretched out his hand and grasped the wooden handle of Huangquan. Instantly, the familiar Yinling death aura surged into his body, and a faint black aura swirled around his body. Seeing that Zhang Tianyu's aura immediately changed, Zhao Wu's eyes lit up slightly, put away her contempt, and kicked Zhang Tianyu fiercely. Hint, received the task, idiot Wu. I'm your husband. Task objective, compete with Zhao Wu, defeat Zhao Wu, and take advantage of Zhao Wu. Any advantage will do. Task reward, first soul skill unlocking degree plus 50%, reward point plus 50, open Zhao Wu's follow-up tasks. Zhang Tianyu, what the hell is this task name? What is an idiot Wu? Well, it doesn't matter, isn't it just taking advantage of her? Isn't that simple? Looking at the little white leg kicked by Zhao Wu, Zhang Tianyu suddenly remembered the scene in the previous life, when he and Zhao Wu's yin and yang met, and applauded for love. Zhao Wu's legs are really top notch, and in terms of the quality of these legs, Ningrangrang and Zhu's Yuking can't compare to her. Of course, Ningrangrang and Zhu's Yuking also have their own advantages that Zhao Wu can't compare to. Seeing Zhang Tianyu standing there without dodging, Zhao Wu's mouth curled up immediately. It seems that this guy is just strong on the outside, but weak on the inside. He has been stunned by my flying kick, and seems to have no reaction at all. In this case, let's kill him in one go and let him know how powerful I am. Unexpectedly, as soon as this thought flashed through her mind, she saw that her leg had kicked in front of Zhang Tianyu, and it was only a few centimeters away from hitting Zhang Tianyu's nose. Zhang Tianyu turned sideways and easily avoided her kick by following her attack trajectory very smoothly. Zhao Wu's face just showed a trace of astonishment, and Zhang Tianyu raised his hand like lightning and grabbed Zhao Wu's ankle, and the other hand went up along her calf. This hand passed through the calf, then the thigh, and then the bagu, and finally stopped at Zhao Wu's small waist. With the force of Zhao Wu's forward rush, he suddenly swung back, and Zhao Wu's whole person turned into a windmill and flew out. Wang Sheng and others were stunned. Ah. Resolved. Exclamation mark. Damn, this isn't right. Wang Sheng was kicked over by this kick before. Is this guy really only at level 3 soul power? Exclamation mark. Zhang Tianyu had a blank expression on his face, but he was laughing in his heart. Isn't it just taking advantage? Isn't it taking advantage? And it was taken without anyone noticing. Since it is a martial arts competition, there will inevitably be physical contact. Sure enough, Zhao Wu didn't realize that she had been taken advantage of by Zhang Tianyu. After taking a few steps back, she stood firm and looked at Zhang Tianyu with a hint of excitement in her eyes. This kid is good. He can actually catch my frontal flying kick. It seems that I have to be serious. The next second, a wooden sword suddenly appeared next to Zhao Wu's neck, and Zhao Wu's movements rose so fast. Everyone was stunned. This guy named Zhang Tianyu is so fast. Zhao Wu blinked a few times, and she lost. It seems that her movements were seen through by Zhang Tianyu. She frowned slightly. For some reason, she felt that Zhang Tianyu seemed to understand her fighting style. Of course Zhang Tianyu understood. In the previous life, they often practiced together when they were free. Her routine had long been transformed into Zhang Tianyu's. Zhang Tianyu could know her every move with his eyes closed. What do you mean? Zhang Tianyu asked. Looking down at the wooden sword beside her neck, Xiao Wu raised her eyebrows. You are quite strong. Do you really only have level 3 spirit power? This question expressed the thoughts of everyone. Zhang Tianyu shrugged. Anyway, that's what it says on the spirit hall certificate. Xiao Wu curled her lips. People in the spirit hall also make mistakes sometimes. That's true. For example, the blind Douluo B Yunteo. No, Su Yunteo. Chapter 5 Congratulations. Yu Xiaogang was also beaten. Hint, congratulations. Bei Wu, I'm your husband. Mission completed. Obtained mission rewards. First soul ring unlocked plus 50%. Reward points plus 50. Start Xiao Wu's follow-up mission. Hint, first martial soul first soul ring unlocked. First martial soul first soul ring. Yeah. 100,000 years color. Red source. 100,000 year soul beast hell flame demon attach soul skills. First soul skill hell flying flame. First soul skill scorching whip. Zhang Tianyu's eyes lit up immediately. No wonder it takes 2 missions to unlock this soul ring. It turns out that it is this 100,000 year soul ring that is unlocked. Good. Wonderful. It should be noted that, although this is a 100,000 year soul ring, because it is unlocked from the system, after obtaining this soul ring, Zhang Tianyu can only get the soul skills and amplification attributes attached to the soul ring, but cannot obtain extra soul power to increase the level. Therefore, his current soul power is still level 10. But even so, it is very powerful. In the plot of the first generation of Douluo continent, who can achieve a first soul ring of 100,000 years? Who? Of course, except for the time traveler. At this time, Wang Sheng and others reacted. My goodness, this guy's move is too fast. This is definitely not the speed that a small vegetable bee with only level 3 soul power can have. Wang Sheng looked at the wooden sword on Xiao Wu's neck and said dully, boss, no, sister Xiao Wu. Xiao Wu waved her hand. Don't call me boss, I lost. Zhang Tianyu put away the sword. Xiao Wu looked at him and said, your name is Zhang Tianyu, right? From today on, you are the boss. Call me old G. Call me brother Tianyu. Zhang Tianyu hooked his finger. Everyone. Xiao Wu curled her lips. TSK, don't be so proud. Wait and see. I will take the position of boss back sooner or later. Wang Sheng and others all looked at each other with suspicion. Did the boss really change so quickly? Really let this guy with only level 3 soul power be the boss? No. Wang Sheng stood up. I want to test your strength myself. Xiao Wu and Zhang Tianyu looked at him together. He continued, as the boss, you have to protect all the part-time students and face those pampered aristocratic students head on. Zhang Tianyu, I don't know what your real strength is, but with a level 3 soul power, you are definitely not a match for those aristocratic students. Zhang Tianyu nodded. To be honest, Wang Sheng was quite qualified as the boss. Looking at the insignificant characters in the entire Douluo continent, Wang Sheng was one of the few who left a good impression on Zhang Tianyu. Wang Sheng's values completely beat Tang San, the so-called dog-carrying protagonist. The battle was over soon. In less than 10 seconds, the wooden sword was on Wang Sheng's neck. What do you mean? Zhang Tianyu asked. I'm convinced, Wang Sheng said, although I don't know why you are so strong with only level 3 strength, your strength is enough to be the boss. Zhang Tianyu was about to speak when he heard footsteps coming from the door. At the same time, everyone looked at the door. Tang San, with a pale face, made a brilliant appearance. He was holding a quilt in his arms. Zhang Tianyu immediately walked over. Hey, Tang San, are you awake? Are you okay? Tang San looked at Zhang Tianyu with gratitude in his eyes. I heard from Teacher Z that you found a teacher to save me. Thank you, Zhang Tianyu. Teacher Z is a healing soul master. Why are you polite? Zhang Tianyu patted his shoulder. It was because of me that you were beaten by Director Su, so you don't need to thank me. Boss, who is this? Wang Sheng and others walked up and asked. Zhang Tianyu briefly introduced himself. When they heard that Tang San was born with full soul power, they were all shocked. But when they heard that his martial soul was blue silver grass, they suddenly felt boring. For a useless martial soul like blue silver grass, full soul power is useless. This is like having 10,000 rounds of powerful .50 armor piercing bullets in your hand, but the launcher is only a slingshot. It's a pure waste. At this time, Xiao Wu saw the quilt in Tang San's arms, and her face turned pale. It's broken. Everyone's attention was immediately attracted to her. Zhang Tianyu asked knowingly, "What's wrong?" Xiao Wu's fair face suddenly showed 2 traces of embarrassment. "I don't have any quilt." Zhang Tianyu looked around and said, now I realize that I don't have any. Boss, use mine. Use mine. I just washed this quilt, use mine. Sister Xiao Wu, if you don't mind, you can use mine. Sister Xiao Wu, mine is good. The hospitable people in the 7th dormitory immediately lent a helping hand to the two. Tang San looked at the two strangely, a little confused about what happened. How did Zhang Tianyu become the boss inexplicably? But after seeing Xiao Wu, none of this mattered. What a beautiful and cute girl. Is she also a work-study student? Does she also live in this dormitory? But it seems that she is the only girl in this dormitory. A girl living with a group of boys. Is this really okay? Exclamation mark. No need. Zhang Tianyu waved his hand. I'll go out and buy a set of bedding. Then I'll go with you. Xiao Wu said immediately. It was obvious that she didn't want to use the bedding that others had used, especially the one used by boys. Who knows if there are any strange special materials on the bedding. After all, Douluo's children are precocious. Okay, Zhang Tianyu certainly wouldn't refuse, but it's time for dinner now. Let's eat first. Boss, I'll take you to the cafeteria. Wang Sheng said immediately. Tang San, are you coming together? Zhang Tianyu asked. I won't go. I'm not hungry now. In fact, he had no money, so he could only stay here and eat dry food. Okay, then we'll go. Watching Zhang Tianyu and Xiao Wu walk out of the dormitory side by side, surrounded by the crowd, I don't know why, Tang San suddenly felt empty in his heart, with an inexplicable sense of loss. What's wrong with me? Tang San said to himself strangely and unhappily. At the entrance of the cafeteria, just when Zhang Tianyu was thinking about how to beat up Xiao Tianyu, suddenly a group of students rushed out from the cafeteria. These students were all excited and rushed to the playground, saying in a flurry, "Have you heard? The master was beaten." Everyone was stunned when they heard this. Zhang Tianyu was not only stunned, but also happy in his heart. Wow. Yu Xiaogang was beaten up. Which kind-hearted angel sister did this? What happened? Why was the master beaten? I heard that he challenged Director Su and was beaten. Isn't it so exciting? But didn't I hear that the master is very powerful? The dean has to give him face, so how could he be beaten by Director Su? The master is powerful, but he is only powerful in words. He is the king of words. Chapter 6. Fart Spirit Yu Xiaogang. Literally. Who is this master? Xiao Wu asked Wang Sheng. The master is a consultant in the academy and has a good relationship with the dean. Wang Sheng said. Is he really just good at talking? Wang Sheng thought for a while and said, maybe. Everyone says he is very good in theory, but in actual combat, anyway, I have never seen him in actual combat. Let's go and see. Zhang Tianyu said. Yu Xiaogang was beaten. This must be a live scene. What is a surprise? This is a surprise. Originally, it was just to pit Tang San, so Tang San was given a bad breath capsule to make his mouth smelly, so that he could cause a lot of trouble. Zhang Tianyu also thought that, since Yu Xiaogang was Tang San's teacher, Tang San's bad mouth would also cause trouble for Yu Xiaogang. But he didn't expect that Yu Xiaogang's trouble would come so quickly. He was beaten so quickly. Good. Wonderful. Playground. At this moment, there were already many people gathered on the playground. In the middle of the crowd were Yu Xiaogang and Director Su, who were confronting each other. Both of them had summoned their martial spirits. Compared to Director Su's majestic werewolf form, Luo Sanpeo, who is independent of his original body, is obviously more eye-catching. After all, many people have only heard about Yu Xiaogang's mutated martial spirit, but have never seen it with their own eyes. However, it is eye-catching, but it is also really weak. Director Su looks completely uninjured, while Yu Xiaogang is already in a very bad state, with many torn and blood-stained clothes on his body. Luo Sanpao is also bruised and swollen at this moment. He used to look like a pig, but now he looks even more like one. What do you have to say now, master? Director Su sneered. You are a famous master, but now you can't even beat me, a small director of an intermediate Soul Master Academy. What else do you have to say? At this moment, Yu Xiaogang, who was so embarrassed, was watched by so many people, especially so many young children. He didn't feel any embarrassment or shame at all, but still maintained the demeanor of a hermit. He looked at Director Su with a sarcastic expression and asked loudly, "Do you think that being good at fighting is everything? Have you only focused on strength and fighting from the beginning to the end? With this kind of thinking, are you qualified to be a teacher and a director?" Zhang Tianyu, everyone. Director Su, seeing that the atmosphere had quieted down, Yu Xiaogang continued to speak loudly. As a teacher, you should pay more attention to the all-round physical and mental health development of children. Strength is important, but strength is not everything. If you only focus on strength, but not on the education of children's morality and being a human being, then the children will grow up to be brave and vicious criminals, and eventually embark on the road of crime. While focusing on strength, we should also pay more attention to the development of other aspects of the children. This is what you, as the Dean of Teaching, should do. Everyone remained silent. Director Su was stunned. Damn, is Yu Xiaogang a fool? In a world like Douluo where strength speaks, and the strong are respected, shouldn't strength be the most important thing? Without strength, everything is nonsense. The strong are willful, and the weak accept their fate. Zhang Tianyu was in awe after hearing this. Yu Xiaogang's mouth is really awesome, and he is really shameless. You can even say such a crooked logic, and you say it so righteously and so sanctimoniously, but it's true. He has nothing else except this mouth. Luo Sanpao looks like a pig, but in fact it's not as good as a pig. Pigs can be slaughtered to make braised pork, garlic pork, coyote spare ribs, braised elbows. Ahem. In short, they can do a lot of things. But what can Luo Sanpao do? Isn't it just farting 3 times? After it is released, it will cool down. Moreover, the power of this fart mainly depends on the smell. A cold can ignore its attack. It is a perfect match with its owner Yu Xiaogang, a waste and a waste. I admit that I'm not as strong as you. I admit that my fighting ability is my shortcoming, but do people live in the world only based on fighting ability? Yu Xiaogang continued to flatter himself righteously. My theory is incomparable to you. Director Su sneered. Your theory? It should be your nonsense and those unproven Arabian Nights. Yu Xiaogang had a blank expression and a cold look. In the future, it will definitely be confirmed. Zhang Tianyu couldn't stand it anymore. Too damn pretentious. Yu Xiaogang, how can you be so pretentious? Will you die if you don't pretend? And some people believe him. Zhang Tianyu found that many students looked at Yu Xiaogang with an inexplicable admiration at this moment. Although most of these students are 6 or 7 years old, being young does not mean that the brain is not good. On Earth, although elementary school students are young, they are all very smart. Why do you people on Douluo continent admire this idiot? Hint, received the task, I'm here. Don't try to act cool. Task target, Yu Xiaogang is too good at pretending. I can't stand it. Harm him once, make him look bad in front of so many people, and destroy the high-end image he has built up. Task reward, soul level +2, reward points +20. Okay, worthy of being my old friend. Tangzi, you think the same as me? Zhang Tianyu has already thought of how to make him look bad in public. I've chosen to use you. Props. Mountain Blaster. Select Yu Xiaogang and use it. Used successfully. Yu Xiaogang was still pretending to be cool. All my theories can be verified in the future, because they are the result of my countless hard work. This is just like what I said to the children before. As long as you work hard enough, you will succeed. As the Dean of Studies, don't you understand this truth? The students around him looked at Yu Xiaogang with even more admiration. At this moment, Yu Xiaogang's originally great and glorious expression suddenly changed, and his brows suddenly frowned. The next second, bang, thump 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 thump. A series of fart-like sounds rang out from Yu Xiaogang, and reached the ears of everyone present. At the same time as this sound rang out, the clothes on Yu Xiaogang's buttocks were obviously impacted, and a bulge was washed out and floated up. So, that's right. This is a fucking fart. And it's a very loud, very long-lasting, and blockbuster fart. The air became quiet, and Yu Xiaogang's passionate speech came to an abrupt end. Everyone looked at Yu Xiaogang in bewilderment. Not to mention others, even Luo-sanpao was bewildered. Good fellow. As expected of my master Luo-sanpao, this fart is louder than mine. Yu Xiaogang was completely numb, standing there, at a loss. The crowd of onlookers also involuntarily stepped back a distance at this moment, and the admiration in the eyes of those students slowly disappeared. After all, who would worship a fart spirit? Chapter 7 Yu Xiaogang who went down in history. The scene was silent for half a minute. During this half minute, everyone was deeply immersed in the shocking fart that Yu Xiaogang had just made. The ears of those who were close to him were still buzzing. Even those who were far away in the teaching building were startled by the huge noise and leaned against the window to look towards the playground. The power and the noise can be described in 2 words, horrible. But after that, there was no follow-up. This is the characteristic of the prop, mountain blasting cannon. In the previous life, Zhang Tianyu used a similar prop, gathering of heroes, on Tang San. That prop would make Tang San fart continuously, but the sound was very small at the beginning, almost unnoticed, and it was controllable at the beginning, which was equivalent to giving people a certain amount of time to prepare. The prop, mountain blasting cannon, is different. It will only make Yu Xiaogang fart once, but it is powerful, loud, unprepared, and uncontrollable. It is most suitable for making people die in public, just like now. Hint, in the last life, Tang San was a fart spirit. In this life, Yu Xiaogang has become a fart spirit. Congratulations. Hint, congratulations to the host for completing the primary achievement. Master and disciple should be neat, and obtaining the title, shoot with both hands primary. Shoot with both hands. Every time you use a soul skill, there is a chance to use it twice in a row without consuming extra soul power. Any soul skill has a chance to be triggered. The triggering probability depends on the title level. The current title level, primary, triggering probability 10%. Not bad. There is something new. Zhang Tianyu's eyes lit up immediately, and it was a rare thing like an achievement title. In the last life, he only activated one title, Awaken the World, from beginning to end. The effect of that title was that he had a high chance of seeing through illusions and magic. But with the system, illusions and magic had no effect on him, so that title was useless, as if it had never been used from beginning to end. But this time, shoot with both hands, is very cool. It only consumes soul power once for double casting. It is useless for those low level soul skills, but if it is a forbidden spell level soul skill, it was originally 1, and Bear suddenly became 2. Damn, just thinking about it is awesome. Can't you issue a task to activate the title? Zhang Tianyu asked. Hint, no, host, all achievements are hidden and need to be completed by looking good. At this time, the person who is having the hardest time is Yu Xiaogang. Although Yu Xiaogang still put on an indifferent and calm expression on his face, his heart is already numb. The heart is confused and numb. Who am I? Where am I? What am I going to do? What did I do? Why did I suddenly and inexplicably fart so loudly? Exclamation mark. Oh no. This is terrible. It's over. Now everyone must be laughing at me in their hearts. They are all laughing at me for farting so loudly. This is outrageous. How can there be such a big and loud fart? Exclamation mark. I have never farted so loudly in my life. Why did I fart in front of so many people today? Who will save me? Who will save me? Director Su was the first to wake up from his daze. He sneered and said sarcastically, "It seems that you are very eloquent with both your mouths." Zhang Tianyu almost couldn't help laughing out loud. Damn, both mouths are eloquent. Wow. Director Su, you are so fierce, and you are also very eloquent. But the problem is that Yu Xiaogang and the dean have a peer relationship. You have openly offended Yu Xiaogang and beat Yu Xiaogang's apprentice. Can you still survive in the academy? Oh, that's right. Whether you can continue to survive here or not, you may not see the sun tomorrow, because Tang here will definitely give you a good beating tonight, and may even kill you directly. Director Su obviously understood this truth, and continued, I will go to the dean to resign later, so you don't need to go to the dean to make things difficult for me. After speaking, Director Su turned and left. Director Su felt that it was worth it to give Yu Xiaogang a beating and scold him before leaving. Yu Xiaogang stood there, feeling a little numb. Wait a minute. Director Su, don't leave. Keep sparring with me. If you don't spar with me, how can I get out of this situation? How can I divert these people's attention from that fart just now? If you don't spar with me, all of them will stare at my butt and see if I will fart that big again next time. Don't leave. Even if you beat me up again, it's okay. Already left, damn it. This Director Su is so uncooperative. Since he won't help, I can only break the deadlock myself. Thinking of this, Yu Xiaogang's face still had no expression. He ignored everyone's strange eyes and said loudly to Director Su's back, you don't have to. The dean and I are not that kind of people. It's just that you beat up the student today. You need to go to the dean to explain. Director Su didn't even turn his head, only a cold snort came. He had already told the dean about beating Tang San, and explained that it was Tang San who insulted them first. As a result, the dean didn't mention the student scolding the teacher at all, but only said that the teacher beat the student. The reason is very simple. Tang San is Yu Xiaogang's student. So what else is there to say? Yu Xiaogang didn't care whether Director Su responded or not. After finishing his high-sounding words, he quickly turned around and left. Yes, he had to leave here immediately. Because you smelled too bad. He was in the center of this storm. He couldn't imagine that he could fart so badly in his life. Hurry up and leave. Seeing the two people leave, the crowd of onlookers also dispersed. I didn't expect that the master was so hidden. Yes, I always thought that only his martial spirit could fart so badly, but I didn't expect that he was even more powerful. That's right, a fart scared Director Su away. Such a terrifying strength, the first person in Notting College. This fart can be recorded in history. Zhang Tianyu remained silent. There was no expression on his face, but he was laughing in his heart. Although these words sounded like praise, in fact, they were all YYGQ. It was so scary just now. Wang Sheng also said at this time, yeah, it was too horrible, such a loud noise. I've seen a Thunder Spirit master before, and the Thunder Spirit skills he performed were not so loud. Xiao Wu's expression was very strange, as if she was trying to hold back her laughter, and she seemed to be just puzzled and said, Master, are you really not here to make people laugh? Everyone. Wang Sheng scratched his head, and just when he was about to speak, he heard a familiar voice suddenly coming from the side. Hey, isn't this Wang Sheng's bunch of poor guys? Why do you come here instead of going to where you poor guys stay to eat slop? It was Zhao Tianyu. He didn't expect to run into him on the playground. Zhang Tianyu smiled and saved himself some trouble. Chapter 8 Zhang Tianyu is a good boy. Xiao Wu has a bad temper. When she heard this, she pinched her waist and cursed without waiting for Wang Sheng to answer. Who are you? Who are you scolding here? Zhao Tianyu, who was with a group of people, looked at Xiao Wu, and his eyes suddenly lit up. What a pretty little lolly, but unfortunately she is a part-time student. Wang Sheng, listen carefully, I'm going to eat, so I'll let you go today. Zhang Tianyu pinched his eyebrows. The lines are really ironclad. No matter how they change, even the place where they meet changes, the lines remain the same. Wang Sheng gritted his teeth and whispered, he is Zhao Tianyu, the boss of those aristocratic students. It's him who brings those people to bully us part-time students every day. Ah, Zhang Tianyu nodded. As the saying goes, it's better to fight when you run into someone than to choose one. Since we've run into him today, there's no reason to let him go. This is a good opportunity to establish the authority of me, the new boss. Xiao Wu immediately became energetic. Fight? Okay, I like it. I'll take the lead. Their voices were so loud that Xiao Tianyu and others heard them. They stopped immediately. Xiao Tianyu looked back at Zhang Tianyu. "Oh, you are their new boss? Haha, that's interesting. It's not bad to stretch your muscles before eating." Wang Sheng quickly stopped Xiao Wu and said to Zhang Tianyu, "Boss, let's say goodbye. Your soul power is only level 3 now. You'd better wait a while." When Xiao Tianyu and the others heard it, they were stunned at first, and then they all laughed wildly. "What? Only level 3 soul power? Ha ha ha. I'm dying of laughter. A boss with only level 3, level 3. Wang Sheng, you bunch of rubbish are really going backwards. You actually found a scum with only level 3 soul power to be the boss. Ha ha ha. How dare you brag here." The faces of the part-time students all turned purple, and everyone was furious. But there was nothing they could do. The part-time students couldn't beat them, and their status was lower than theirs, and the teachers wouldn't care, even if they went to them, so they could only swallow their anger every day. Zhang Tianyu said calmly, "What the hell are you laughing at? It won't be too late to laugh at your funeral when you die." Wow. The laughter on the opposite side stopped instantly, and every noble student's face changed instantly, and they glared with anger. "What the hell did you say? You're looking for death. You, a waste with only level 3 soul power, dare to scold us? Believe it or not, we will beat you to death." A boy said to Xiao Tianyu, "Boss Xiao, don't let this kind of trash dirty your hands. I'll deal with him." Xiao Tianyu raised his hand. "No need. Dare to scold me like this. I will teach him a lesson personally. Who makes him the boss?" He looked at Zhang Tianyu. "Since you are the boss, do you dare to fight with me, today, right now?" "Sure." Zhang Tianyu smiled. "Don't refuse the meal ticket that is delivered to your door. If you lose, you will have to take care of our meals and our part-time jobs in the future." "No problem." Xiao Tianyu sneered. "But what if you lose? You say. No matter where you are in the future, kowtow to me and call me grandpa when you see me." Zhang Tianyu pinched his eyebrows. "Okay, then let's start." Xiao Tianyu shouted and summoned the wolf spirit to possess him. His body swelled up instantly. His muscles almost burst his school uniform, and wolf fangs grew out of his mouth. A white spirit ring rose from under his feet. Seeing this scene, Wang Sheng and others looked ugly, but Zhang Tianyu sighed as he did in his previous life. Xiao Tianyu's father was the mayor of Notting City. As the son of the mayor, his first spirit ring was less than 100 years old. It was so outrageous. It felt that either the mayor was a big fool or Xiao Tianyu was a little fool. Zhang Tianyu spread his arms and Huang Quan appeared in front of him. "Wooden sword. Ha ha ha. It's just a rubbish wooden sword. Rubbish wooden sword. Level 3 spirit power. You still want to challenge our boss Xiao? Looking for death? Boss Xiao. Smash his dog head. Come on, boss Xiao." Wang Sheng and others were all sweating. Let alone anything else, the difference in momentum between the two is huge. Xiao Tianyu is like a ferocious wolf that has found its prey with high momentum and murderous intent. However, there is no movement on Zhang Tianyu's side. After all, he only has level 3 soul power, and it is just a wooden sword's martial soul. "Boss, show your strength." "Yes, boss, come on." Wang Sheng and others also began to cheer Zhang Tianyu up. Xiao Wu said, "If it doesn't work, I'll do it." Zhang Tianyu glanced at her and said, "Who are you looking down on, sister? Watch how your brother deals with him." To deal with someone like Xiao Tianyu, you have to do it once and for all. Let him know how powerful he is, and let him never dare to resist again. So Zhang Tianyu didn't waste any words, just like in his previous life, and directly activated Huang Quan's own domain. 9 Nether Senlo domain. On the ordinary wooden sword, the black air exploded in vain. With Huang Quan and Zhang Tianyu as a center, the thick black gas suddenly unfolded like a scroll, spreading into a huge circular black area. In the center of this area, where Zhang Tianyu and Huang Quan were, a looming black tombstone appeared out of thin air. On the tombstone, ghosts and evil spirits were circling and howling. The sound of ghosts and wolves howling scared Xiao Tianyu to pee his pants on the spot. With a plop, Xiao Tianyu knelt directly on the ground, trembling and crying, "Ah! No more competition. No more competition. I lost." Everyone was stunned. because he couldn't be too high profile. Zhang Tianyu controlled the scope and power of this area. Only Xiao Tianyu could bear all this. Therefore, in the eyes of others, they could only see the black gas beside Zhang Tianyu and feel the goosebumps from Zhang Tianyu and Huang Guan. Therefore, whether it was Xiao Tianyu's men or Wang Sheng and others, they were all confused at the moment. Ah, how did he lose? And why did Xiao Tianyu pee? This is not right, right? This is very strange. Only Xiao Wu's eyes became sharp. She had long seen that Zhang Tianyu's wooden sword was not an ordinary thing. Now she was more certain that this wooden sword must not be as ordinary as it looked on the surface. Zhang Tianyu put away his martial spirit and domain and said with a smile, "Okay, then we will go to eat first, and don't forget to pay the bill later." Yu Xiaogang walked very fast and hurriedly, but he could still clearly feel that there were many people following him, and those people seemed to be talking about his feet just now. Just when he was embarrassed, he suddenly felt that there were fewer people behind him, so he stopped and looked back, and then he found that they had all gone to watch the competition between two students. He knew one of the students, Zhang Tianyu, who entered school with Tang San. At this moment, he was so moved that he almost cried. "I didn't expect that it was Zhang Tianyu who helped me out in the end. He is such a good boy!" Exclamation mark. Chapter 9 Lurking Successfully. Boss. Zhang Tianyu, who was eating, looked back and saw Xiao Tianyu, whose complexion had basically returned to normal, coming behind him with a group of noble students. "You defeated me. According to the rules, you will be the boss of the academy in the future." Xiao Tianyu recalled the scene just now and couldn't help but turn pale and tremble all over. It's so scary. His intuition told him that if he didn't admit defeat just now, but chose to continue fighting, he would probably be dead now. Although he is young, he is very smart. He knows that if he is really killed, his father, as the city lord, will definitely avenge him. But what's the use? Even if he is avenged, he will not survive. He will never be able to enjoy the good life as the son of the city lord again. Therefore, he decisively chose to give in and made up his mind to build a good relationship with Zhang Tianyu. Soul power level 3 is so terrifying. What will happen when he grows up in the future? If he doesn't hold on to this thigh now, he will be sorry for his father's careful teaching to him all the time. Zhang Tianyu was also very generous. "Come on, sit down and eat together." With a common boss, the two parties who were originally incompatible quickly became harmonious. "Damn Director Su, you have already got yourself killed." Tang San, who was sitting alone in the dormitory, had a cold light flashing in his eyes. He had made up his mind that when his injuries were completely healed, he would find an opportunity to poison Director Su. Creaking, the dormitory door opened. Tang San turned around and saw that it was Zhang Tianyu and others who came back from dinner. He immediately showed a kind expression. Everyone will live together for a period of time in the future. Although they are still children, the relationship between each other still needs to be managed. "Are you back from dinner?" Zhang Tianyu nodded and asked with concern. "How are you? Do you feel better?" Tang San said, "Much better, thank you for your concern." A boy said, "As the boss, it is of course your duty to care about the younger brother." Tang San smiled without comment. Wang Sheng asked, "Your name is Tang San, right? I heard that you worshipped the master as your master, and then you were beaten by Director Su." Tang San's expression changed, and he nodded and said, "Yes." He knew that Director Su's beating him would definitely spread throughout the college. "Before we went to the cafeteria to eat, we saw the master and Director Su fighting on the playground," Xiao Wu said. Tang San stood up suddenly. "What? I'll go check it out." He rushed out, but was stopped by Zhang Tianyu. "Why are you still going to check it out? It's over already." After that, everyone talked about what happened. After all, they were all children, and they were all very straightforward. They even told in detail about Yu Xiaogang's last big fart. After listening to it, Tang San was stunned. His teacher, the master, was actually beaten by Director Su! Exclamation mark. In other words, Director Su directly gave them a pack cue? Ah, this is too embarrassing. The apprentice was beaten, the master went to find trouble, and then got beaten again. Damn. Shame. It's so embarrassing. And at the end, he even farted so loudly in public. This is doubly embarrassing. Tang San then remembered that he did hear a loud noise coming from outside when he was in the dormitory just now. He also walked out of the dormitory to take a look. Seeing that there was no other movement, he thought someone was experimenting or demonstrating some spirit skills, and returned to the dormitory without thinking about it. Now that I think about it, that loud noise was Yu Xiaogang's fart. I'm really convinced. His strength is so poor, but his fart is so strong! Exclamation mark. What kind of genius teacher did I find? But now it is impossible to change to someone else as a master. Not only in Douluo continent, even in the world he lived in before, everyone can only formally worship one master in his life. If you change to someone else's door for no reason at this time, it would be a betrayal of the master, and you may even be accused of betraying your master and destroying your ancestors. So after thinking about it, Tang San's face changed several times, and finally came to a conclusion. This Director Su is still a way to die. That's right, now he has a way to die. But it seems that Director Su will not stay in the college, because he said at the last moment that he would go to the dean to resign. Wang Sheng repeated Director Su's last words. A gloomy look flashed in Tang San's eyes, and then he quickly returned to normal and said, I think he is judging others by his own standards. I don't think the teacher is that kind of person. Besides, I also have some responsibility for his attack on me. Zhang Tianyu looked at him with no expression on his face, and sneered in his heart. Oh, this mouth. The beautiful words are so good. You can act, and I can act even better. Thinking of this, Zhang Tianyu walked to Tang San, patted him on the shoulder and said, I witnessed all this. I think no matter what, it's wrong for him, a teacher, to hit you so hard. Children can be educated if they are ignorant, but education is only educated by force. If he only uses force, he is not worthy of being a teacher. Hearing this, Tang San looked at Zhang Tianyu with a little more light in his eyes. Although I have only known him for a day, this Zhang Tianyu would actually help me and speak for me like this. I have decided to be friends with Zhang Tianyu. We'll see later. If this person is good, then we can be brothers. Thank you for saying that, Tianyu, Tang San said with a hint of gratitude, but this is fine if we just say it between us. You can't tell anyone else. If someone hears and complains to the teacher, I'm afraid you'll get into trouble too. I don't want you to get into trouble because of me. Oh my. What a good actor. What he said was so good. I'm afraid you're saying in your heart now, Zhang Tianyu, it's a good thing you're on my side. Otherwise you'd also die, right? Humph. Anyway, you, Tang San, are just such a wretch. After this incident, Tang San's impression of Zhang Tianyu increased greatly. Originally, Yu Xiaogang planned to take Tang San to the soul hunting forest to hunt for soul rings the next day. However, he was beaten up by Director Su and was injured. His anus was hurt for more than a day because of the shocking fart. He also had to go to the dean to explain Tang San's beating and Director Su's resignation, so it was delayed for 3 days. In addition, Zhang Tianyu and Tang San were the only ones who knew each other well in the whole dormitory. Therefore, during these 3 days, the two of them quickly developed into good friends. It's not abrupt this time. The two of them became friends with a clear emotional foundation, and even gods can't find any faults. So there is no need to worry about being discovered by those gods and then being plotted against by them. Even if it is discovered by the gods, it doesn't matter. At most, they can kill Tang San and be reborn again. Chapter 10. Heartbroken Tang San. In the morning, Tang San got up early, ready to go to the gate of the academy to find Yu Xiaogang, and then go to the soul hunting forest together. After getting up, he looked at Zhang Tianyu and Xiao Wu who were sleeping in the same bed with some envy, and then left the dormitory with a sad look. 3 days ago, Zhang Tianyu and others returned to the dormitory, and after chatting with Tang San and gaining Tang San's favor, Xiao Wu, who had not said much, finally reached out and tugged at Zhang Tianyu's sleeve. Zhang Tianyu looked back at her. What's wrong? Xiao Wu blinked her cute big eyes with an innocent face. Did you forget something? Ah. What? Zhang Tianyu asked curiously. Xiao Wu pointed to the empty wooden bed next to her. Are you going to sleep on the wooden board tonight? Oh, right. Zhang Tianyu slapped his forehead. Then you rest first. We'll go out to buy bedding. Okay, boss. Wang Sheng replied immediately. Do you need me to lead the way for you? No, we'll go out for a walk by the way. Xiao Wu said. Okay, Sister Xiao Wu. Although Xiao Wu is no longer the boss, her strength is still there, so it's okay to call her Sister Xiao Wu. Watching Zhang Tianyu and Xiao Wu leave the dormitory side by side, Tang San didn't know why he suddenly felt choked up in his heart. It was a very inexplicable choking feeling, like a bit of suffocation. What's wrong with me? Tang San wondered to himself in his heart. Why did he feel a bit uncomfortable inexplicably? From this point of view, the boss and Sister Xiao Wu are really a good match. A boy next to him suddenly said. This sentence triggered everyone's conversation. Yeah, the eldest brother is very strong and handsome. Sister Xiao Wu is also very strong and cute. If this isn't a perfect match, what else can be called a perfect match? And just now Brother Sheng asked if he wanted to lead the way, and Sister Xiao Wu said no. Do you think they are going on a date? Wow. This is really possible. Awesome. They went out on a date on the first day they met. I say, why are you all so precocious? How old are you? Are you discussing this here? Wang Sheng asked with a smile. What's inappropriate about this? My dad had me when he was 14, said a boy. Based on their ages, it would be 8 years later. 8 years. It's just a blink of an eye. My dad is even more amazing. He created me when he was 13, said another boy. My dad is 12 years old. My dad is 10 years old. Everyone immediately looked at the boy whose dad is 10 years old. Wang Sheng said, 10 years old? Good guy. Didn't your grandfather beat your dad to death? You can't brag like this. Everyone laughed. Listening to their laughter, Tang San's heart suddenly became more blocked. These two went out on a date so soon. Thinking of Zhang Tianyu's appearance, he was even more discouraged. No matter how strong he is, no matter how hard he tries, there is one thing he can't change. That is, his appearance. He looks really ordinary, too ordinary. He doesn't know why he looks so ordinary in this life. In the previous life in the martial arts world, he was not so ugly when he was 6 years old. At that time, he was already a handsome guy. Looking at this life again, damn, I can't bear to look at it directly. It's as ordinary as the grass on the side of the road. Thinking of this, and thinking about his blue-silver grass martial spirit, Tang San remained silent, and could only sigh in his heart. An hour later, Zhang Tianyu and Xiao Wu returned to the dormitory with a quilt. Boss, Xiao Wu, you are back. Wang Sheng and others greeted them immediately. Boss, why did you only buy one set of quilts? A boy asked. Zhang Tianyu shrugged helplessly. There is no way. The money on me is only enough to buy one set. Xiao Wu stuck out her tongue awkwardly. Well, it's all my fault. I chose such an expensive one. This is something you cover yourself with. Of course you have to choose a good one. Zhang Tianyu said with a smile. Don't blame yourself. Yes, in fact, I should blame myself, because I have enough money to buy 2 sets. But if I buy 2 sets, how can I sleep with you on the same quilt? So God, please forgive me. The LSP. Hey, boss, you should have said it earlier. Wang Sheng said immediately. I have money here. I can lend it to you first. Swish. Before he finished speaking, a chill instantly spread throughout his body. He looked up and saw Zhang Tianyu saying with a half smile, forget it. After all, I'm the boss. How can I have the nerve to ask you for money? Gulp. Wang Sheng swallowed his saliva. The boss is right. The boss's eyes are so scary. So scary. Why did he suddenly look at me with such a scary look? Wang Sheng was confused. But now the problem comes. Xiao Wu said, there is only one quilt. What should we do with it? Then I can only give it to you first. Zhang Tianyu said, you are a girl, and I'm the boss. Can I let you get cold? After speaking, Zhang Tianyu put the quilt on an empty bed. At this time, Xiao Wu suddenly bit her lip, as if she had made up her mind, and walked to Zhang Tianyu and said, let's you sit together. Huh. Zhang Tianyu was stunned. Look, this quilt is quite big. It's enough for us to use together. Xiao Wu's expression quickly returned to normal, and she said naturally, so let's just use it together. Everyone was stunned, and Tang San was shocked. Ah. No. My heart was inexplicably more blocked. more uncomfortable. What happened? Exclamation mark. Zhang Tianyu thought for a while and said, are you sure? Of course, you are strong. Hurry up and push the empty bed over, put them together, and then spread the quilt on it. Xiao Wu's face was a little red and pushed Zhang Tianyu. Go. Okay. Zhang Tianyu shrugged. Wang Sheng understood instantly. Oh, that's it. Boss, I understand. Boss, let me help you push. The two beds were quickly put together, and the bedding was also laid out. Xiao Wu nodded with satisfaction and smiled. Look, this fits very well. Then she put her only luggage, the small bag, at the seam between the two beds and said, hey, this is the dividing line. Don't cross it, otherwise I will. Zhang Tianyu blinked his eyes. Otherwise you will what? Say it, sister. Xiao Wu's face turned slightly red, raised her little fist and shook it. Do you understand? I understand. Zhang Tianyu raised his hands. Watching the interaction between the two, the people in the dormitory winked and made eyes, and Tang San, who had been silent, began to tremble at this moment. My heart is so sad. Why is it so sad? My heart hurts so much. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 11. The Moonlit Night at 24 Bridges. Where can the Jade Girl teach me to play the flute? 3 days. 3 days. Do you know how Tang San spent these 3 days? Do you know? He watched Zhang Tianyu and Xiao Wu sleeping in the same bed every day. They ate together, practiced together, and attended the opening ceremony together. His heart ached. He had never felt so much pain in his life, even in his previous life. Why was my heart so painful? Tang San cried out in pain. It was precisely because of his heartache that Tang Heo could see his heartache, so Xiao Wu was able to save her life. Of course, this is only one of the reasons. Another reason is the relationship between Zhang Tianyu and Tang San. Now in the entire Notting Academy, except for Yu Xiaogang, the teacher, the person who has the best relationship with Tang San is Zhang Tianyu. Therefore, Tang Heo saw Tang San's feelings for Xiao Wu on the one hand, and on the other hand, he also saw the relationship between Tang San and Zhang Tianyu. The most important reason is that Tang San is still too young to receive a 100,000-year spirit ring. He has other things to do. Even if he captures Xiao Wu, he can't keep her in captivity and watch her all the time, so he decided not to touch Xiao Wu for the time being. Xiao-san. Yu Xiaogang's call woke Tang San from his trance. Teacher, what's wrong? Tang San asked. You seem a little absent-minded and a little depressed. Did you not get enough rest last night? Yu Xiaogang asked with concern. Maybe. Tang San said, I'm sorry to trouble you, teacher. It's okay. Yu Xiaogang smiled a little dully. You can rest in the carriage. I'll wake you up when we get there. No need, teacher. I'll be fine in a moment. Yu Xiaogang nodded and stopped talking. The carriage became quiet. Tang San looked out the window of the carriage, full of doubts. Why do I feel so uncomfortable when I think of Xiao Wu and Tianyu as a couple? Why? There is no reason. Thinking of this, Tang San suddenly felt a shock in his heart, and his mind couldn't help but recall the scene in the Tang sect in his previous life. Those scenes of memory revolved in his mind like a revolving lantern, and finally fixed on one person, Tianyu, senior brother of Tang sect. That was his only good friend in Tang sect. At that time in Tang sect, that senior brother took good care of him. He even almost regarded that senior brother as his own brother. Tianyu. These names seem like. And that senior brother Tianyu is also a handsome man with a handsome face. He does look a bit like Zhang Tianyu. Could it be that after senior brother Tianyu learned that I jumped off the cliff, he also jumped off the cliff and came here with me? No. It shouldn't be like this. If that's the case, then Tianyu should also be able to retain the memory of his previous life. He should have recognized me long ago and confessed his identity to me. then it is possible that senior brother Xiaogang did not come to this world with his memory like me, but his memory was wiped out and he reincarnated in this world, so he doesn't remember me. This is possible. Ah. Senior brother Xiaogang, is that you? Tang San's eyes were moist. But wait, that's not right. Even if he is really senior brother Xiaogang, then why do I feel uncomfortable when he is with Xiao Wu? This logic is wrong. I should be happy for him, not feel upset. Could it be? Exclamation mark. Tang San's eyes suddenly became a little strange, and his expression became a little complicated. Could it be that I'm a gay? Exclamation mark. Am I jealous of Xiao Wu because I saw her and Xiaogang together? No, no, no. Impossible. This is impossible. Although I was single in my previous life and had no interactions with any woman, the person who stayed with me the longest was senior brother Xiaogang, but I'm sure that my sexual orientation is normal. I can never be a gay. But the person who stayed with me the longest was indeed senior brother Xiaogang. Am I actually a hidden gay? I thought my sexual orientation was normal, but in fact it is not. This is impossible. The more Tang San thought about it, the more panicked, uneasy he felt, because the more he thought about it, the more he felt that the image of Zhang Tianyu in his mind was so real and vivid, although he was not by his side, but it was as if he was in his heart. Ah, how scary. No, don't think about it anymore. Xiao-san, what's wrong with you? Yu Xiaogang finally noticed that something was wrong with Tang San and asked, you look a little ugly? Distracted by Yu Xiaogang, Tang San instantly came to his senses. Ah, teacher, I'm fine. Yu Xiaogang frowned slightly and looked at him with some worry. You don't look like you're fine. Xiao-san, are you really okay? As he said that, he reached out and touched Tang San's forehead. Tang San subconsciously wanted to dodge, but then he thought that this was his teacher, so he didn't dodge. However, when Yu Xiaogang's hand pressed on his forehead, he was shocked again, and an indescribable feeling suddenly surged in his heart. This feeling of being cared for and worried about. Ah, the needle doesn't poke. This warm feeling, I have never felt it before, even from my father. You look a little ugly, and it seems that your body is shaking a little. Yu Xiaogang asked, are you really okay? Tang San retracted his gaze and lowered his head slightly. Teacher, I'm really fine. Maybe I didn't get enough rest last night, and I will recover in a while. Yu Xiaogang said, if there is anything, don't hide it from me. You must tell me. Okay, teacher. By the way, this is something I got when I was traveling outside when I was young. It has no use to me, so I'll give it to you. As he said, he untied his belt. Tang San was immediately shocked. Wait a minute. Why are you untied your belt for no reason? I'm just a child. And I'm still a boy. What are you doing? I'm not gay. The next second, Yu Xiaogang gave the belt to Tang San. This is a storage soul guide. It has never had a name. Give it a name. It turned out that you were going to give me a belt. Tang San breathed a sigh of relief and was shocked. He thought you were going to do something. As for naming it, Tang San listened to Yu Xiaogang's description of the belt, then thought about it and said, why not call it Where Can the Jade Girl Teach to Play the Flute? Ah. Yu Xiaogang was stunned. This name. No, 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 I said it wrong. Tang San quickly changed his words. Let's call it 24 Bridges Moonlit Night. Tang San was very flustered. He clearly wanted to say 24 Bridges Moonlit Night. Why did he inexplicably say the sentence after this? Am I really a gay? Exclamation mark. No. Impossible. Absolutely not. I'm normal. Chapter 12 She's just a child. Yu Xiaogang's expression eased a little. Ah, 24 Bridges Moonlit Night. This name is not bad. It sounds quite artistic, but it's a bit long. Tang San smiled awkwardly. The car was quiet again, but Tang San's heart could no longer be quiet. Reminder, the trial of the live map function has been enabled, and the trial period is 7 days. Reminder, the trial of the Jianghu function has been enabled, and the trial period is 7 days. Reminder, after completing the Son of the Forest mission, the host can choose any of these two functions to enable permanently. Reminder, activate the mission, Son of the Forest. Mission objective, during Yu Xiaogang and Tang San's trip to the soul hunting forest, harm any one of the two, regardless of the method or consequences, but not causing their death. Mission reward, reward points plus 50, soul power level plus 2. In this mission, if both are harmed, the mission reward will be doubled. Zhang Tianyu smacked his lips, feeling a little annoyed. This system has really become stingy. In his previous life, he activated the live map function for free right away, but this time, he had to complete a mission to activate it. These two functions are very powerful. Live map can determine the current location of a character at any time and anywhere, and can scan the current status of the character remotely. The Jianghu function can monitor and record a character in all directions without blind spots, and can also select props to harm him remotely. The combination of these two functions can be said to be invincible in the world. It is a must-have and excellent function for playing dirty tricks in secret. Can I activate both at once? The system replied, I'm sorry, host. I also want to activate both for you, but I can't. It's against the rules. Among all the random task rewards given to you, I have tried my best to give you the best task reward. Wait a minute, you said that, if you trick two people, the task reward will be doubled. According to this meaning, if I trick them both at once, can't I get both functions? The system was helpless. I'm sorry, host, this function reward is independent of the task reward that can be doubled, and it cannot enjoy the doubling effect. Zhang Tianyu looked painful. It doesn't matter, just do it. Anyway, this task reward is free. Isn't it like playing to trick these two fools? Retracting his mind, looking up at Xiao Wu who was jumping happily on the playground, Zhang Tianyu opened the Jianghu list, clicked Yu Xiaogang, clicked to observe, and swish, or 360-degree surveillance screen with no blind spots, appeared in Zhang Tianyu's mind. Every hair of Yu Xiaogang was clearly seen, and every move was in full view. At the same time, at the gate of the soul hunting forest, the guard at the entrance to the forest checked Yu Xiaogang's token, then bowed respectfully, and opened the gate. The master and disciple walked in, and the hustle and bustle of the market outside the forest immediately disappeared without a trace, and all they could hear were the sounds of birds and insects coming from the quiet forest. Tang San's somewhat gloomy mood immediately became a little smoother. This beautiful feeling from nature is really nostalgic. At this moment, Tang San seemed to have returned to the Bashu Tang sect in his previous life. The Bashu Tang sect was full of mountains and forests. In order to find medicinal materials and poisons to practice poison, he often traveled through the mountains and forests. The breath of this forest gave him a very beautiful sense of closeness. Yu Xiaogang said, next we have to find the soul beast that meets the standards to hunt the soul ring. Remember what I told you about the soul beast you need? Tang San nodded. Remember, about 400 years old, preferably with poison, tough, not necessarily a plant soul beast. Yu Xiaogang nodded with satisfaction. Very good. Next I will release the martial spirit. You stay with me. Don't be too far away from me. The master and apprentice began to look for soul beasts in the forest. There is no plot in this section, just aimless search. Zhang Tianyu knew that they were destined to not find it today. It is not a good time to find a chance to trick them at this time. If you want to trick two people at once, you must not trick them to death. The best time is after they encounter the Mandragora snake. Just when Zhang Tianyu felt bored and turned off the observation mode, he opened his eyes and happened to see Xiao Wu's big watery eyes. He was immediately scared. My goodness, these eyes are really big. How can they be so big? What are you doing? Scaring me. Zhang Tianyu took a few deep breaths. What were you doing just now? Xiao Wu asked curiously. You closed your eyes and seemed to be smiling. Were you practicing? Ah, yes, practicing. Zhang Tianyu couldn't say that he was secretly observing Yu Xiaogang and Tang San, right? Xiao Wu would probably think he was a fool. Then what were you practicing? Why were you still smiling? Xiao Wu was even more puzzled. He was practicing while smiling, and his smile looked like he had bad intentions. Was he really practicing? Ah, I was practicing with a method passed down from our Zhang family. You haven't seen it, so you think it's strange. Okay then. Xiaowu didn't ask any more questions and said, "It's so boring, come and spar with me." "What sparring? You can't beat me." Zhang Tianyu stood up. "What else?" Xiaowu pouted, "I'll beat you up this time." After that, Xiaowu rushed to Zhang Tianyu and kicked him in the air without saying anything. "Hey, you have no martial ethics, you sneak attack." Zhang Tianyu dodged in a hurry. Oh my god, this one rubbed his nose. If he hadn't reacted quickly enough to dodge, his nose might have been flattened by this blow. Then he would turn from a handsome guy into an ugly man. "This is the result of you looking down on me." Xiaowu smiled proudly and swept her leg again. Can Zhang Tianyu indulge her? He stretched out his hand and grabbed her, then pinched her calf hard. Anyone who has had their calf pinched knows that the taste is quite sour and refreshing. Not to mention that Xiaowu is still a rabbit, and the nerves in her legs are more sensitive than humans. Double the sourness. Xiaowu was a little unstable on the spot, her little face flushed. "What are you doing? Ouch. Let go." "Hehe, this is the result of you sneak attacking me." Zhang Tianyu smiled proudly and pinched hard. Xiaowu struggled hard. Zhang Tianyu followed her movements and slid his hand along her long legs again and slid across her thighs and drums again. Ah, such a wonderful elastic touch. Zhang Tianyu suddenly remembered a mousepad for Xiaowu that he had bought on Earth before. Wow, a mousepad with a convex front and a curved back. The touch is also wonderful. Hint, host, Xiaowu now is just a 100,000-year-old child. Zhang Tianyu raised his eyebrows. A girl who is 3 years older than a man will bring gold bricks. A girl who is 3,000 years older than a man will give him elixirs. A girl who is 100,000 years older than a man will have boundless magic power. System. Chapter 13 Tang San's Bad Idea. Soul Hunting Forest. That night, Yu Xiaogang and Tang San, the master and apprentice, searched for a whole day, but couldn't find a suitable soul beast. They set up a tent under a big tree and sprinkled a circle of insect repellent. Then Tang San went into the tent to rest, and Yu Xiaogang kept watch outside. Tang San was sleeping when he suddenly heard a fight outside. He was startled and got up immediately. He opened the tent curtain and saw his teacher Yu Xiaogang fighting with 2 monkey soul beasts. The monkey soul beasts were very fast, and Luo Sanpao was no match for them. "Teacher!" Tang San screamed. Yu Xiaogang immediately said, "Pack up and get ready to leave. These 2 soul beasts are more than 500 years old. We are no match for them." Tang San didn't care about anything else. He immediately packed up the important things and said, "Okay, teacher. Let's retreat. You go first, I'll cover you." Yu Xiaogang said loudly. Tang San quickly retreated in the opposite direction. He had only taken a few steps when he heard a muffled groan from behind. Looking back, he saw that one of Yu Xiaogang's arms had been scratched by the monkey. Seeing Tang San running away, Yu Xiaogang finally stopped worrying. With a wave of his hand, Luo Sanpao's fart exploded. The 2 monkeys were immediately choked and fled, but they did not run far away. Instead, they climbed up the big trees around and stared down at the 2 men. "Damn it, I didn't expect to be targeted by these monkeys." Yu Xiaogang cursed in a low voice. "They shouldn't appear here." As he was talking, the stench dissipated, and the 2 monkeys rushed down quickly. To make matters worse, a larger monkey appeared in front of him. Oh no. Yu Xiaogang saw the big monkey and his face suddenly changed. This one is more than 700 years old. Tang San was shocked. 700 years old, plus the 2 500 years old behind. He couldn't deal with so many. This monkey is a speed player. Even if all the hidden weapons, the mysterious jade hand, the ghost shadow and the purple demon eye were used, he and Yu Xiaogang cooperated with each other and could barely deal with the 2 500-year-olds, but that was all. This 700-year-old will definitely kill them. It's over. Is this the end of today? In a flash, the 700-year-old monkey rushed up at an extremely fast speed. Tang San, who didn't open the purple demon eye, only saw a black shadow flashing in front of him. A gust of wind brushed past his ears, and Yu Xiaogang screamed behind him. Tang San didn't need to look back to know that Yu Xiaogang must have been hit in the vitals, otherwise he wouldn't scream so miserably. "Xiao-san, go quickly." Yu Xiaogang struggled and shouted. Tang San didn't answer and turned over and shot out several hidden weapons, but they were all easily dodged by the monkey. It's over. Tang San wailed in his heart. After all, his strength was too weak, and the power of the hidden weapons was far less than in his previous life. It's the end of today. The three monkeys left the seriously injured Yu Xiaogang and rushed towards him. At this critical moment, a sword light exploded like lightning. Squeak. Along with the monkey's screams, in Tang San's eyes, the three monkeys rushing towards him were all chopped into pieces. Tang San was completely confused. Little newborn, dare to hurt my brother. Looking for death. A familiar voice came from behind. Tang San turned around suddenly, and sure enough, it was Zhang Tianyu. It turned out that he came out to save him at the critical moment. At this moment, Tang San was excited and burst into tears. Tianyu, I didn't expect it to be you. Thank you for saving me. We are brothers. Why are you polite? Zhang Tianyu smiled gently, and his smile made his handsome face look even more handsome. In Tang San's eyes, this smile directly made everything in the world lose its color, and the sun and the moon lost their light. Only then did he realize that Zhang Tianyu was so charming. Tang San suddenly felt his heartbeat speed up. No. What is this feeling? Exclamation mark. This feeling is wrong. Tianyu is just my good friend. Even if he appeared at the critical moment to save me, I would only be grateful for his life-saving grace. How could it be? A strange idea popped up inexplicably. Are you okay? Zhang Tianyu approached and asked. Feeling the breath of Zhang Tianyu, Tang San became more flustered. This is even more wrong. No. I want to throw this inexplicable idea away. Zhang Tianyu is just my brother and friend. I didn't expect your strength to be so high. Tang San immediately changed the subject. I didn't expect these monkeys. You solved it so easily. So amazing. It's nothing. Just a few newborns. Zhang Tianyu put away the wooden sword and asked again. Are you okay? Tang San shook his head. I'm fine. It's just my teacher. He looked back, but found that Yu Xiaogang lying on the ground had no movement. He was startled and rushed over to check, only to see that Yu Xiaogang's eyes were closed, his face was dark blue, his lips were pale and bloodless, and he was lying on the ground motionless, and even his chest was not rising and falling with breathing. Tang San panicked and quickly reached out his hand to feel Yu Xiaogang's breath. Then he suddenly retracted his hand, as if he had been electrocuted. Dead. Yu Xiaogang was dead. Dead. Oh no. Tang San was struck by lightning. He didn't expect his teacher to die just like that. This is my new teacher. I'm CNM. Damn monkey. How is the master? Zhang Tianyu's voice came from behind. Tang San's nose was sore and his eyes were red. Teacher, he can't be saved. Zhang Tianyu walked forward and felt Yu Xiaogang's breath. Then he sighed. Alas, I'm sorry I'm still a step late. Brother, please accept my condolences. Tang San burst into tears. As if the scene had changed, Tang San had stopped crying and asked Zhang Tianyu, how did you run so far to get here? Zhang Tianyu said something, but Tang San didn't hear it clearly and asked, what did you say? Then Tang San opened his eyes. The sky was slightly bright. It turned out to be just a dream. Tang San sat up with a sense of loss. I don't know why, but I feel a little disappointed. Of course, the reason for the disappointment is not that Yu Xiaogang didn't die, but that Zhang Tianyu didn't come. If Zhang Tianyu really came, how great it would be. When he walked out of the tent, he saw Yu Xiaogang sitting under a tree, resting his mind with his eyes closed. Hearing the noise, he opened his eyes, awake. Tang San said, yes, teacher, it's still a while before dawn. You should go and rest for a while. Yu Xiaogang nodded and walked into the tent. Tang San sat outside the tent and began to practice breathing exercises as usual, practicing Zhuan Gong and Ziji Demon Eye. But this time, no matter how he practiced or how he controlled it, he couldn't calm down. I don't know why. Zhang Tianyu's shadow always popped up in his mind inexplicably. Not good. Tang San's expression became a little complicated. What's wrong with me? Chapter 14. How the hell did I get hurt? However, at this moment, Luo Sanpao, who was on guard outside, immediately shouted Laola, Laola, Laola. Yu Xiaogang, who had already entered the tent, quickly walked out. Tang San also threw away those messy thoughts and immediately stood up and looked around vigilantly. A rustling sound was clearly transmitted to Tang San's ears. Indistinctly, there seemed to be a little more fishy smell in the air. The fishy smell was not strong and even had a faint sweetness and tea fragrance. Tang San's nose moved and he blurted out subconsciously, poisonous. This smell was too familiar. In the previous life in Bashu Tang sect, this smell was often smelled. It seems that the previous calm was the calm before the storm. Yu Xiaogang frowned and put both spirit rings on Luo Sanpao. As Tang San raised his hand and pointed, the fire stick flew out to illuminate the surroundings. Mandragora snake, shining. Seeing this, Yu Xiaogang's face suddenly changed. Mandragora snake. How can such a fierce creature appear outside the soul hunting forest? I hope it's 10 years old. Zhang Tianyu also frowned. Isn't this wrong? Shouldn't the Mandragora snake appear before they rest in the first half of the night? Why did it appear now, when Tang San has already woken up from a nap? It seems that there are some changes in the plot and timeline. Zhang Tianyu said to himself in his heart. It seems that my arrival has inevitably caused changes in the plot. I have to be more careful next time. System, are you ready? Hint, it's not completely ready yet. Please wait for a moment, host. But please rest assured that this system will be ready before you reveal any clues. In the soul hunting forest, the battle between humans and beasts has begun. After Yu Xiaogang's wisdom, Luo Sanpao farted 3 times at the Mandragora snake. He pulled Tang San away frantically. The Mandragora snake didn't intend to kill it, but these 3 farts completely angered it. What? Snakes are inferior to humans? Snakes have no self-esteem. Should a snake swallow its anger after being dislocated by a pig's fart? No. The Mandragora snake wanted to seek an explanation for itself being dislocated by a fart. To seek justice. So it chased Yu Xiaogang relentlessly. In fact, its target was only Yu Xiaogang. It didn't want to chase Tang San, but Yu Xiaogang dragged Tang San away frantically, so the Mandragora snake had no choice but to chase Tang San as well. English. Seeing the Mandragora snake getting closer and closer, Yu Xiaogang decisively commanded Luo Sanpao to rush forward to help. As expected, Luo Sanpao was bitten, and the injury was transmitted to Yu Xiaogang at the same time. It can be seen from here that Yu Xiaogang is wise. At this time, what he should have done was not to let Luo Sanpao rush forward to stop the Mandragora snake, but to release Luo Sanpao and let it rush to other places to attract the attention of the Mandragora snake. Maybe he could lead the Mandragora snake away. After all, it was it that farted, and the Mandragora snake's hatred was mainly on it. It was also a martial spirit that could exist independently. Maybe if it ran to other places, the Mandragora snake would chase it. After all, many people could not understand this kind of martial spirit that existed independently outside the body of a soul master, let alone a 400-year-old soul beast. Besides, even if it could not be led away, it could be recalled at any time anyway, and it could be released to attract attention. In the end, if it really couldn't work, he could rush forward to help. As a result, he directly let Luo Sanpao rush forward to help and use the most dangerous method. It can only be said that he is not only a waste, but also a stupid person. Of course, this is not the point. Zhang Tianyu certainly did not just watch the show, but as early as when the Mandragora snake appeared, he had already given the 2 people a prop, empathy talisman, which acts on both people at the same time, connecting the feelings of the 2 people together. If one of them is injured, the same part of the other person will also be injured. Note, this prop will not cause death. If the target is in critical condition or dies due to the effect of this prop, the prop will become invalid and the target will instantly recover to full health. This prop comes with the memory eraser effect. After the injury is healed, the target will lose this memory. Price: 99 points. Of course, Zhang Tianyu does not have so many points now, so he is trying it for free. The master and the apprentice must be in order. If Yu Xiaogang is injured, Yu Tang San must also be injured. If Yu Xiaogang is poisoned, Yu Tang San must also be poisoned. As a filial child, you must be so sensible. You must share the joys and sorrows with your master and empathize with him. The reason why Zhang Tianyu used this item was because of the memory erasure effect attached to it. This effect was newly created by the system after this rebirth, in order to make Zhang Tianyu better hidden and not be discovered. There was no such effect in the previous life, which caused the wonderful experiences suffered by Yu Xiaogang and Tang San to be deeply imprinted in their minds. Because of these memories, they finally suspected Zhang Tianyu more than once. These are all clues. Those gods are very smart, and they are bystanders. It is easy to find Zhang Tianyu from these clues. Therefore, the memory erasure effect came into being. As for whether it will make Zhang Tianyu better hidden, it depends on the future development. In the words of the system, it should be effective, otherwise it will be in vain. In the soul hunting forest, Yu Xiaogang's face was pale, and Tang San's face was also pale. The inexplicable pain in his arm and the numbness of the poison made him confused. He was completely confused. How the hell did I get hurt? How the hell did I get poisoned? Who the hell can explain this to me? Tang San was completely confused. Realizing that he was poisoned, Tang San knew that he couldn't delay any longer. If he delayed any longer, the deeper the poisoning, the weaker his fighting power would be, so he had to take advantage of the moment to get rid of this mandragora snake. Thinking of this, he shook off Yu Xiaogang's arm. This shake made him grimace in pain. Yu Xiaogang grabbed him with his uninjured arm, and he grabbed Yu Xiaogang's injured arm. Damn it. How the hell did I get hurt? Exclamation mark. Without caring about that, Tang San immediately used his sleeve arrows. After being dodged by the mandragora snake, Tang San took out the short sword that Yu Xiaogang gave him and began to exert all his abilities: Ghost Shadow, Purple Demon Eye, Mysterious Jade Hand, Control Crane and Capture Dragon. However, it was not as easy for him to kill the snake this time as in the original plot, because his arm was injured. When he used the crane controlling dragon technique to suck the snake's head in front of him, he suddenly felt pain in his arm and the dagger almost flew out. But he still tried his best to stab the dagger into the mouth of the mandragora snake. The mandragora snake struggled violently and swept its tail over. He was about to use the ghost shadow technique, but the pain on his arm made him sweat profusely. In such a moment of distraction, the mandragora snake's tail had already swept his left leg. Ah! Tang San screamed. It hurts so much. I'm dying. I'm dying. Chapter 15 Master Yu and Master Tang. Ah! Almost at the same time, Yu Xiaogang also screamed. But Tang San didn't bother to look at him, because the mandragora snake was the focus now. If they didn't get rid of this snake, they would both die. Fortunately, the mandragora snake was stabbed in the vitals by Tang San's dagger, and was not far from death. After struggling for a while, it finally calmed down. Tang San had time to look at Yu Xiaogang and asked, "Teacher, were you injured again just now?" Yu Xiaogang woke up from his confused state and said, No, I don't know." "Ah, you don't know either?" Tang San looked strange. Yu Xiaogang said, "Just now, my leg suddenly hurt for no reason, as if it was hit by something." Tang San was stunned. "Are you a big fool? Don't you know this?" Thinking of this, Tang San was suddenly stunned again. The inexplicable leg hurt, as if it was hit by something. Why does it seem a little familiar? Wait a minute. Just now, I also felt my arm hurt for no apparent reason, and it was obviously poisoned, just like being bitten by a snake. But at that time, the mandragora snake didn't bite me, but bit the teacher. And now, the mandragora snake didn't sweep the teacher's leg, but swept my leg. As a result, the teacher's leg also started to hurt for no apparent reason. Why is this happening? Hiss. Tang San's eyes suddenly lit up. I know. I understand. I understand. My teacher is an idiot. He is imitating me. He is learning from me. It must be like this. Otherwise why would he scream when the mandragora snake didn't hit him? At this time, Yu Xiaogang stumbled to Tang San and held Tang San's hand. "Xiao-san, how are you? Are you hurt? Hey, are you sick? Do you treat me as your own disciple? You only remember to ask me how I'm now? No wonder you have never had a disciple. You have a low IQ, low strength, and low EQ." Tang San still pretended to be panicked and panting and said, "I'm fine, teacher. It's just that the snake seems to be lying there motionless." Yu Xiaogang said in a somewhat reproachful tone. Why did you suddenly let go just now? Do you know how dangerous this is? Tang San. You fucking idiot. Fuck you. Don't I know it's dangerous to let go? But it's more dangerous not to let go. What's the point of running when you're dragging me? Can I outrun that snake? That's a 400-year-old mandrake snake. That's not 400 cabbages. If you catch up and bite us, we'll both be fucking idiots, you know? I really regret worshipping such a thing as my master. Although he cursed in his heart, Tang San was still very honest and said, I don't know what happened. My hands were sweaty, and it seemed to slip suddenly. Teacher, I just waved the dagger you gave me randomly, and it seemed to have stabbed the snake. Yu Xiaogang pulled Tang San's hand. His palms were indeed full of cold sweat. He guessed that Tang San had stabbed the mandragora snake, and it was very likely that he had stabbed the mandragora snake's vital point. Otherwise, how could such a ferocious, vicious, and vengeful soul beast suddenly stop chasing, and stop there and gradually move? But don't go over there yet, wait and see. The vitality of snake soul beasts is extremely tenacious, and it's not so easy to die. It may be pretending to be dead now. Well, teacher. Tang San thought to himself, do I need you to teach me? I played with more snakes in the Tang sect in my previous life than you have. After cursing in his heart, Tang San gasped for air. This was not his intentional act. On the one hand, he was a little exhausted. On the other hand, he was poisoned by the snake and his legs were swept. His arms and legs were in great pain. At this time, he suddenly remembered that there were some antidotes in his bag. They were all made from herbs collected from the mountains and fields near the village when he was in the Holy Spirit village. Although they could not completely dispel the poison of the mandragora snake, they could effectively delay the onset of the poison and the erosion of the body. And it was at this time that the effect of memory erasure appeared. Tang San clearly saw that Yu Xiaogang's arm also showed symptoms of poisoning, but he forgot it. That's right, even if it was right in front of him, he forgot it. The effect of the props produced by the system is so overbearing and unreasonable. While Yu Xiaogang quietly approached the mandragora snake to check the situation, Tang San took the antidote herbs and felt that his injured and paralyzed arm gradually regained consciousness. Tang San breathed a sigh of relief, seeing that the breath of the mandragora snake was really getting weaker and weaker. Yu Xiaogang gradually breathed a sigh of relief. Then, the look on his face began to change from the previous panic to ecstasy, and said, great, this is really great. Xiao-san, your spirit ring has been found. The yellow spirit ring floated from the body of the mandragora snake. Tang San faced the body of the mandragora snake, sat cross-legged on the ground, and some expectations appeared in his eyes. Tough and poisonous, the attributes of this snake just met Tang San's requirements. According to the logic of Soul Master cultivation, as long as he can absorb the spirit ring of this snake, he can break through the bottleneck of Zhuanshan and continue to the next step of cultivation. You absorb the spirit ring with peace of mind. I will protect you, Yu Xiaogang said. According to Yu Xiaogang's instructions, he began to formally absorb the spirit ring. The hot warm current poured into his body, spreading to every inch of his body, every part of the meridians. Such a domineering power. With the influx of energy, Tang San's consciousness suddenly lit up, and he seemed to see himself immersed in a sea of flames. In the center of the flames, a lonely blue-silver grass swayed with the flames. No matter how fierce the flames were, they could not destroy it. He was overjoyed. This seemed to be the inner vision realm of internal force. In his previous life, he was too old when he practiced Zhuanshan Baolu, and he never felt this realm. Unexpectedly, it appeared when he absorbed the first spirit ring. This shows that his Zhuanshan bottleneck is indeed very likely to be broken. With joy and excitement, he continued to concentrate on using the Zhuanshan internal force and the spirit power in his body to guide this huge energy to wander in his body. As it wandered again and again, he felt that the bottleneck was becoming more and more fragile, and there was a possibility of breaking through at any time. At this moment, suddenly, he felt a cool feeling coming from the unspeakable part of his pants, and on the other side, Yu Xiaogang finished peeing and walked out of the tall bushes on the side. Tang San was completely confused. Could it be that I peed my pants? Otherwise, why would the pants suddenly feel so cool, as if they were soaked in water? The empathy talisman. can not only synchronize the damage, but also connect the feelings of two people together. Therefore, when Yu Xiaogang finished urinating, Tang San also finished urinating at the same time. Therefore, Tang San's pants were wet. Chapter 16. Tang San is completely confused. As we all know, when a soul master is absorbing a soul ring, he must not be disturbed. Once disturbed, his soul power will become unstable, and he will not be able to control his soul power well, to absorb the soul ring energy. If he is not careful, he will fail to absorb or not absorb all the energy, or even explode and die. Tang San was absorbing well, but suddenly his pants got wet. This is not fun. The soul power in his body lost control at the moment when Tang San was stunned, and the hot energy that had become docile exploded. Tang San groaned directly, and was almost exploded on the spot by this uncontrolled energy. Fortunately, he not only had soul power in his body, but also Zuanshan's internal force. Zuanshan's internal force appeared in time to guide this burning energy, which prevented Tang San from exploding and dying. But even so, this loss of control just now also caused most of the energy to be lost. This soul ring originally had 400 years of energy, but now it is only about 100 years at most, and it exploded 2/3 directly. Tang San only felt his heart twitching and bleeding, painful. And it wasn't just his heart that was bleeding, the corners of his mouth were also bleeding. The out of control energy shook his internal organs, causing his blood to surge and overflow from the corners of his mouth. The consequence was that, after absorbing the complete spirit ring, Tang San's level could be raised to around level 13. Now that 2/3 of the energy has exploded, Tang San's level can only be raised to level 11, and it is just above level 11. Cool. It's so cool. Tang San was tricked from the original level 13 to level 11. It's fun. So fun. Although he stumbled and was surrounded by dangers, Tang San still completed the absorption when the sky was bright. If it was the original amount of energy, I'm afraid Tang San would have to absorb it until almost noon. Because 2/3 of the energy was exploded, Tang San only took a very short time to absorb it, just stuck at this time, when the sky was bright, which is very different from the original plot. At this time, Yu Xiaogang was also at the last moment of his life. The poison almost made him die. Originally, it would not have taken effect so quickly, but unfortunately, he suffered another sweep of the tail of the mandragora snake, so the injury accelerated the onset of the poison. If Tang San had not taken his own antidote in advance, he would be like Yu Xiaogang at this moment. Teacher, I have absorbed it all. As soon as Tang San opened his eyes, he saw Yu Xiaogang who was about to die. Teacher, what's wrong with you? Tang San was very anxious, and he quickly turned over and came to Yu Xiaogang's side and helped him up. Seeing his face, Tang San blurted out, poison. Yu Xiaogang's originally stiff face was surrounded by black air. The whole person was already taking in more air than exhaling. His body was stiff, and he had lost all consciousness. Why is the teacher poisoned? With doubts, Tang San suddenly felt that his body was a little abnormal, and he quickly pulled open the sleeve on his right arm. The bitten area had almost swollen into the shape of a round eggplant. Purple, big, round, shiny, and greasy. Tang San suddenly slapped his head and finally remembered. When he and Yu Xiaogang were being chased by the mandragora snake, Yu Xiaogang's martial spirit Luo Sanpao had been bitten by the mandragora snake. It was the right front leg of Luo Sanpao, and he quickly took it back. The beast martial spirit is one with the host, even if the master's beast martial spirit is mutated. Fuck it, immortal board, top his lungs. Tang San slapped his head hard. I know this. How could I forget it? Turtle Son. Teacher, I will detoxify you right away. Under the effect of empathy, Tang San was also poisoned, but his antidote made the poison state lose the synchronous feeling. Yes, the effect of this prop can be interfered by external objects. However, the effect of this prop still exists. Born in the Tang sect, Tang San knows how to deal with poison injuries. At this time, he didn't care whether the fire would summon soul beasts. He quickly summoned some dry branches and leaves from the surroundings and lit a pile of fire with a fire starter. Then he pulled off the sleeve of Yu Xiaogang's right arm, dug a hole in the ground with a short sword, and then took out clean water to wash the sword. The bonfire gradually burned more and more vigorously. After Tang San repeatedly roasted the short sword on the bonfire, he dragged Yu Xiaogang's body to the side of the small hole and let his right hand hang in the hole. Taking a deep breath, Tang San turned his wrist and slashed Yu Xiaogang's pulse gate, arm, and armpit with 3 consecutive swords. Swish, swish, swish. After thinking about it 3 times, Tang San suddenly felt severe pain in these 3 places. Do you remember what I said just now? The effect of empathy talisman is still there. Tang San cut these 3 wounds on Yu Xiaogang, resulting in 3 identical wounds on his body at these 3 places, and blood was flowing. Ah. Fuck you. Maybe. Tang San cursed in pain. Fuck. Damn it. How did I get hurt? Ah. How the hell did I get hurt? Tang San was about to collapse. What the hell? How did he get hurt? Alright. It just so happens that the toxins in his body have not been completely eliminated. Let's get rid of the toxins first, and then consider other things. On Yu Xiaogang's side, 3 streams of purple-black blood with a strong fishy smell and a faint tea fragrance shot out, like 3 small rivers flowing into the small pit dug in advance. Tang San also shed 3 streams of dark red blood, soaking his clothes. Fuck it, it's a pity to waste my 2 copper coin clothes. After cursing, Tang San put one hand on Yu Xiaogang's chest, and the Xiaogang internal force that had just been improved was activated. With his left hand, he sealed the 4 meridians in his chest to prevent the poison from spreading. At the same time, his right hand began to rub his chest lightly, using the internal force to stimulate the blood circulation in his body and slowly forced the poison to one place. However, the next second, suddenly, Tang San felt that the 4 meridians in his chest were inexplicably sealed. At the same time, he also inexplicably felt that someone was using internal force to stimulate the blood circulation. Fuck. What the hell? Tang San was completely dumbfounded. What the hell happened? Why were my meridians sealed? Who sealed them for me? Exclamation mark. And who was rubbing my chest lightly, using internal force to stimulate the blood circulation in my body? There must be a ghost in this place. Damn it. Damn it. Is there a pervert here who can turn invisible and cannot be seen? Exclamation mark. Thinking of this, Tang San got goosebumps all over his body. Then he didn't care about anything else and started to quickly remove the poison from Yu Xiaogang. Now he had only one idea in his mind, to quickly cure Yu Xiaogang and then take him away from this weird ghost place. Chapter 17 Tang San regrets. Seeing Tang San's shocked, frightened, and confused look, Zhang Tianyu tried hard to hold back his laughter. The effect of the empathy talisman is just like this. All feelings can be conveyed and felt simultaneously when you seal Yu Xiaogang's meridians. It is equivalent to sealing your own meridians. When you massage Yu Xiaogang, it is equivalent to massaging yourself. Hint, congratulations. Mission completed for Son of the Forest. You've simultaneously tricked Yu Xiaogang and Tang San and received double the mission reward. Reward points plus 100. Spirit power level plus 4. Zhang Tianyu called up his own attribute panel. Host, Zhang Tianyu. Level 16. Martial Soul. First Martial Soul. Huangquan. First Spirit Ring unlocked. Second Martial Soul. Not unlocked. Soul Bones. None. Soul Guidance Device. None domain. Huangquan 9 Netherworld's domain. Original soul skills. None. Props. None. Gifts. None. Reward points. 180. Before I knew it, I was at level 16. With a system, I could level up quickly. Sure enough, all that bullshit Son of Destiny, Son of Heaven's Pride, and other nonsense are nothing but dregs in front of the golden finger. In the soul hunting forest, Tang San finally helped Yu Xiaogang to remove the poison. Yu Xiaogang's face returned to normal and his breathing became stable. However, Tang San's condition became abnormal. His face became a little flushed, and his breathing became a little rapid. As for the reason, it was of course, because of the strange feeling just now. Tang San is an old man, and he is an old man who has never been to Douluo before. After experiencing this feeling, of course his face will be red and his heartbeat will accelerate. Zhang Tianyu laughed in his heart when he watched with the monitoring observation function. However, at this time, after the upgrade, the system, which was obviously not so talkative, suddenly said, reminder, host, this may not be a good thing. If Tang San really changes his taste, the first person in danger will be you. Zhang Tianyu shuddered when he heard it. The laughter in his heart stopped abruptly. Good guy. It seems to be true. He was busy playing, watching Tang San and Yu Xiaogang suffer, enjoying the joy of being cheated, but forgot about his own safety. Zhang Tianyu suddenly thought of his previous life. In his previous life, Tang San had had some inexplicable thoughts about him several times. Thinking of this, Zhang Tianyu suddenly felt a chill on his back. Damn, it seems that I have to be a little careful. If Tang San is really driven to the road of homosexuality this time, Zhang Tianyu will be in danger. There is always someone hiding in the dark and staring at his anus. This feeling makes him shudder just thinking about it. Hint, host, don't be so absolute. In the previous life, Yu Xiaogang was affected by the Homo special effect capsule, and his taste changed. Flanders became the first victim. At first, Flanders was also difficult to accept, but later. So host, you. Shut up. Zhang Tianyu rolled his eyes. Don't think I don't know what your rotten girl system is thinking about. I tell you clearly that you'd better give up this idea as soon as possible. I won't satisfy your rotten girl needs. System. Thinking back to reality, in the surveillance footage, Tang San's emotions gradually stabilized, his complexion and expression gradually returned to normal, and Zhang Tianyu's hanging heart gradually settled down. He really had to worry. Tang San had not only had several inexplicable and weird thoughts about him in his previous life, but in this life, last night, Tang San even muttered his name vaguely in his sleep. He didn't know this, because the system helped him record the surveillance video of Tang San talking in his sleep, and he knew it. When he heard Tang San mumbling his name in his sleep, he was really scared. Looking at the unconscious Yu Xiaogang, and then at the energetic Tang San, Zhang Tianyu stretched out his hand and pinched his chin. He had previously thought that the idea that the empathy talisman would make all feelings completely synchronized was wrong, and the effect of this prop was also limited. For example, Yu Xiaogang was unconscious due to poisoning, but Tang San was not unconscious because Tang San had used antidotes to remove part of the toxins in advance, and because he successfully absorbed the spirit ring under the baptism of the surging spirit power, some of the toxins were removed. In addition, the spirit ring and toxins both came from the mandragora snake, and Tang San absorbed the spirit ring, which was equivalent to absorbing part of the energy of the mandragora snake, and finally the toxins in the body were completely purified. Without toxins in the body, it will not fall into a synchronized coma due to poisoning like Yu Xiaogang. That is to say, if one of the feelings is affected in advance, then the other reactions and feelings triggered by this feeling will be different, and will not be 100% synchronized. Yes, host, this is the butterfly effect of this item. The system gave an explanation. In fact, many items have this effect. The more you use them in the future, the more differences and novelties you will find. Zhang Tianyu nodded. Well, it seems that after rebirth, there are indeed a lot of new things. This kind of props with butterfly effect. Basically I have never seen it before. Come to think of it, if everything is the same as before, it would be too boring. There must be some novelty. However, Zhang Tianyu also felt a little pity afterwards, because after that, Yu Xiaogang was in a coma for 3 days, and during these 3 days, he continued to have a fever. All this was caused by the damage to the body, caused by the toxin and the triggering of the body's protection mechanism. Since it was caused by the toxin, it could not be synchronized to Tang San. What a pity. If Tang San also had a fever and had to take care of Yu Xiaogang who was still unconscious, it would be even more of a torture for Tang San. Zhang Tianyu had a deep personal experience of how uncomfortable it felt to have a fever. However, the feelings of the two were communicated to each other, not one-sided communication and acceptance, just like when Tang San's pants suddenly got wet when he absorbed the spirit ring. During these 3 days, whenever Tang San solved his physiological needs, he would definitely synchronize with Yu Xiaogang. So, Yu Xiaogang's pants got wet too. This time, Master Yu really became Master Yu and got wet. When he saw Yu Xiaogang's pants were wet, Tang San thought it was because the area was too humid and there was too much dew that wet Yu Xiaogang's clothes. when he approached Yu Xiaogang and smelled the smell that could not be described in words, he realized that Yu Xiaogang had beat. Tang San was all. Never expected that Yu Xiaogang, who was so old, would actually peed his pants. So embarrassing. He looked at Yu Xiaogang with complicated eyes and once again asked himself a soul-searching question. What the hell did I find to be my teacher? Exclamation mark. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 18. Yu Xiaogang was poisoned again. Tang San was a sensible and good boy after all, and he himself was deeply implanted with the idea of once a teacher, always a father. Considering that Yu Xiaogang was now in a coma, like a vegetable, unable to do anything, he could only sigh, and began to serve Yu Xiaogang. 3 days. Yu Xiaogang was in a coma for 3 whole days. Do you know how Tang San spent these 3 days? Do you know? Zhang Tianyu knows. Then do you know how Zhang Tianyu spent these 3 days? He and Xiao Wu were in pairs every day, sleeping together and whispering at night, and going to class together to practice and exchange ideas during the day. They didn't have to do the work of part-time students, and they just walked on the street and went out to hang out in their spare time. Life was simply carefree. It was a pity that the two of them looked too young on the surface now, otherwise they could have played house in advance, which would have been more fun, in every sense. At noon on the 4th day, Yu Xiaogang finally woke up. What happened to me? Yu Xiaogang woke up in a daze, and said in a hoarse voice. His weak body could not use any strength. He only felt dizzy in front of his eyes. The feeling of the world spinning made him lose his direction. Even raising his hands was very difficult. Teacher, are you awake? Tang San immediately came to his side and said, did you detoxify me? Yu Xiaogang looked at his treated wounds and asked, yes, teacher, when I was a child, my father taught me a simple way to treat poison wounds. At that time, I saw that you were unconscious, so I had to try. Tang San thought to himself, nonsense, you open your eyes and look at this place. There are other things in all directions besides forests and soul beasts. It's not me. Could it be that the soul beasts treated you? If it weren't for me, you would have been poisoned to death. If you are poisoned to death, soul beasts may not dare to eat you. I didn't expect to be saved by students. Yu Xiaogang sighed in his heart. Yu Xiaogang. It seems that other people's evaluation of you is too accurate and too true. You are a waste. You led students to hunt spirit rings, but you poisoned yourself. In the end, it was the students who solved the spirit beast and cured you. Thinking of this, Yu Xiaogang felt cold in his heart. But soon, he adjusted his mood again. After all, he had been a waste for so many years, and had long been accustomed to it. Teacher, you take a rest first. I will go to serve you some broth. Tang San said immediately. Yu Xiaogang seemed to suddenly remember something and asked quickly, Xiao-san, did you succeed? Successful, you see. Tang San said, and displayed the first spirit ring. Although this first spirit ring is 100 years old and yellow, it is light yellow and a little white. The reason is very simple. When absorbing the spirit ring, most of the energy of the spirit ring exploded, resulting in a decrease in age. So the quality of this 100-year spirit ring is close to that of a 10-year spirit ring. But even so, Yu Xiaogang's eyes were also flashing with excitement, because this meant that his theory was successful, and that he was right. Well, this is great. It seems that my judgment is completely correct. After being injected with the Mandragora snake spirit ring, the blue-silver grass has become tough. If I guess correctly, it should also have a certain amount of Mandragora snake toxicity. It's just, what are its skills now? Tang San briefly introduced his first spirit skill, and then raised his hand to prepare to perform it. Right now, Zhang Tianyu opened his eyes and used a prop on Yu Xiaogang again. Hehe, this trip to the soul hunting forest has not ended yet. How can they leave comfortably like this? And the effect of the prop, empathy talisman, has not ended yet. Of course it has to be used again. Tip, one-time fire attractor was used successfully. Fire attractor. This is a prop that is so new just by the name. After Yu Xiaogang is affected by this prop, he will instantly become a live target that can attract all attacks. As long as he is within the attack range of others, even if the target of others' attacks is not him, the attacks will hit him 100%. One-time fire attractor can only attract one attack, and any attack can be attracted. But like the previous props, this prop is not lethal. Once the attracted attack will kill Yu Xiaogang, or make Yu Xiaogang seriously injured and dying, the prop effect will disappear immediately, and Yu Xiaogang will instantly recover to full health. Swish. Blue-silver entanglement. Tang San aimed at a few trees not far ahead, and the blue-silver grass exploded in his palm and shot towards the trees at a high speed. However, the next second, these blue-silver grasses suddenly turned in a circle in the air strangely, and then flew straight to Yu Xiaogang. Just like magnetic mud attracted by a magnet, it completely broke away from Tang San's control in the air, and flew straight to Yu Xiaogang. Yu Xiaogang and Tang San were both stunned. This all happened too fast. Yu Xiaogang was too close to Tang San. He didn't expect Tang San to attack him. Normal people wouldn't expect this to happen. Even if Yu Xiaogang wasn't a normal person and expected this to happen, he couldn't avoid the attack of the blue-silver entanglement in his current state. Tang San's reaction was very fast, but the blue-silver grass that flew out had already escaped his control and flew towards Yu Xiaogang without his control. Ah! Yu Xiaogang screamed, and the blue-silver entanglement tied him up tightly. The barbs on the blue-silver grass pierced directly into his body. Ah! Yu Xiaogang screamed again. Then, Yu Xiaogang couldn't scream anymore, because his body had been paralyzed by the mandrake snake venom attached to the blue-silver grass. Tang San was shocked. He didn't expect the blue-silver grass to suddenly escape his control. He hurriedly retracted his spirit skill, and while retracting it, he shouted hurriedly, "I'm sorry, teacher. I'm sorry. I didn't do it on purpose." Before he finished speaking, Tang San's whole body was shaken, and the action of retracting the blue-silver grass was also frozen in midair. Then, he fell to the ground with a thud. The effect of empathy talisman is still there. Yu Xiaogang was attacked by the blue-silver grass, which was equivalent to Tang San being attacked by his own blue-silver grass. Yu Xiaogang was paralyzed, and Tang San was also paralyzed. So Tang San was paralyzed and fell to the ground directly, and the blue-silver grass was not completely retracted, and part of it was still entangled with Yu Xiaogang's body. The two fell to the ground paralyzed, staring at each other, and the air suddenly became quiet. At this moment, Yu Xiaogang couldn't help asking himself in his heart, even hitting his own teacher? What the hell did I take? Zhang Tianyu couldn't hold back his laughter anymore. Fortunately, it was noon now, and he was alone on the playground, so he could laugh wantonly. Yu Xiaogang, don't you want to see Tang San's spirit skill? Satisfy you. Now you have fully seen it. Ha 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 ha. Chapter 19. He is anxious. He is anxious. After all, the poison wrapped in blue silver was condensed from Tang San's soul power, so even if he was poisoned and paralyzed at the same time, Tang San still quickly recovered. After recovering, he immediately took back all the blue silver grass and rushed to Yu Xiaogang. "Teacher, are you okay? Sorry, I didn't mean it. I was clearly aiming at those trees over there, but I don't know why. The soul skill suddenly flew towards you, teacher. I really don't know why. I'm also very puzzled now." Yu Xiaogang is now paralyzed all over, lying on the ground like a telephone pole, stiff all over, and only his eyes can move. If eyes can scold people, then Tang San must have been scolded to death at this moment. "You didn't mean it!" Exclamation mark. Who would believe this if you say it out? And you still say I don't know why the soul skill flew towards me? What you mean is that your soul skill has evolved self-awareness, and you don't like me and want to mess with me? Exclamation mark. Go out and ask a soul master, is there any soul skill in this world that is not controlled by a soul master? Exclamation mark. Yu Xiaogang was paralyzed and stiff, and could only say these words in his stomach. But he soon calmed down. This matter was indeed strange. Tang San had no reason to attack him, and even if he did, he should kill him directly, and he should take advantage of the fact that he was paralyzed and could not move. But Tang San did not continue to attack him, but kept explaining and apologizing. This shows that Tang San really did not mean it. But how can there be a soul skill that is not controlled by a soul master? Yu Xiaogang has completely forgotten that he suffered from this prop in his previous life. However, that prop is continuous and will make Yu Xiaogang a living target that attracts various attacks during the duration. At that time, Yu Xiaogang was in Wuhan City and suffered various inexplicable attacks one after another. In the end, he was accidentally injured by Yan and burned to a roasted pig on the spot. This time Zhang Tianyu used a disposable prop, so after attracting Tang San's blue-silver entanglement attack, the effect disappeared, and he would no longer be a living target. The duration of the empathy talisman was about to expire. Zhang Tianyu laughed and finally stopped. It was fun to torture them, but you couldn't torture them too hard at once, otherwise it would be counterproductive. After a while, the numbness disappeared, and the pain came. Yu Xiaogang finally regained his ability to move. "Teacher, you can move now, that's great," Tang San said hurriedly. Yu Xiaogang glanced at him and asked, "What happened just now?" "Tang San, are you deaf, or have a brain problem? Didn't I explain it to you? You're still asking, what the hell is this?" But this is his master after all, so he still patiently explained it again. Yu Xiaogang frowned. "How could I inexplicably lose control of my spirit skills?" Tang San was speechless. "I don't know about this either." He really didn't know. He had never encountered such a situation in his previous life. Skills like Ghost Shadow and Mysterious Jade Hand had never been out of control, including the major sects in the martial arts world. He had never heard of any sect's martial arts and skills being out of control. Some people would lose control when they were obsessed with cultivation. Could it be that Yu Xiaogang's theory was unreliable, so he absorbed an inappropriate spirit ring and was obsessed with it, so his spirit skills were out of control? Or is it that the spirit skills in this world are unreliable and all spirit skills have the possibility of being out of control? Tang San's heart became uneasy. Damn, things that can lose control are rubbish no matter how awesome they are. You said you were clearly aiming at those trees, but your spirit skills suddenly changed direction and flew towards me? Yu Xiaogang asked. Tang San nodded. "How many times do you have to ask me?" Exclamation mark. "If you don't like me, then just expel me from the sect, and I'll just find a better teacher." Yu Xiaogang carefully observed every change in Tang San's expression. It didn't seem like he was lying, as if what Tang San said was true. But how could it be possible? In the history of Douluo continent for so many years, I have never heard of any normal spirit master suddenly losing control of his spirit skills. Wait, could it be? Yu Xiaogang suddenly broke out in a cold sweat. Could it be that my theory is wrong? Plant-based martial spirits can't actually absorb the spirit rings of animal spirit beasts. Or is it too old, causing Tang San to actually absorb it, but not be able to control it well? Exclamation mark. Thinking of this, Yu Xiaogang's face turned pale in an instant. He has been a waste for so many years, and the only thing that can support him to live until now and make him proud is his theories. If the theory is wrong, it means that all his hopes have been cut off. Without hope, there is no point in him living. Seeing Yu Xiaogang seem to be about to collapse after being hit, Tang San and Zhang Tianyu were both quite confused. Tang San, what's wrong with the teacher? Why did he suddenly seem to be in a state of collapse? Zhang Tianyu, what happened to Yu Xiaogang? Did he break his egg? Why did he suddenly look like he had lost all hope in life? No. Impossible. My theory can't be wrong. My theory is correct. No. It can't be wrong. Yu Xiaogang kept mumbling in a low voice in a somewhat neurotic manner. Tang San couldn't quite hear what he was mumbling, but Zhang Tianyu heard it clearly and was a little strange. Why did he say these words out of nowhere? He understood after thinking about it. It should be that after knowing that Tang San's spirit skills were out of control, Yu Xiaogang thought that his theory was wrong, which caused Tang San's spirit skills to go out of control. Damn it, this Yu Xiaogang is quite imaginative. I just did something insignificant, but Yu Xiaogang made up so many messed up things in his mind. Come on, send the computer to Yu Xiaogang and let Yu Xiaogang write the rest. Teacher? Teacher? Teacher, what's wrong with you? Are you okay? Tang San's voice brought Yu Xiaogang's thoughts back to reality. Looking at the innocent Tang San in front of him, Yu Xiaogang sighed and then made up his mind. He must not admit that there is a problem with his theory. Otherwise, this good seedling will run away. There must be another problem. There must be another reason. I'm fine. Yu Xiaogang shook his head. His voice was very tired and hoarse. He reached out and touched Tang San's head and said, "This situation, I have never seen it before or even heard of it. After I go back, I will go to other teachers to ask. Maybe I'm ignorant." Tang San asked worriedly, "Teacher, could it be that there is a problem with the spirit ring I absorbed?" "What's the problem? How could there be a problem?" Yu Xiaogang said loudly, as if his tail was stepped on. "There is no problem with my theory. Absolutely no problem." Chapter 20. Yu Xiaogang was beaten by Tang Heo again. Looking at Yu Xiaogang, who seemed to be under stress, Tang San thought, "Damn, I didn't say that there was something wrong with your theory. I just said that maybe there was something wrong with this spirit ring. You are so excited." He was a little suspicious about whether there was something wrong with Yu Xiaogang's theory, and now seeing Yu Xiaogang's big reaction, he was even more suspicious. Then he decisively chose to shut up and not argue with Yu Xiaogang. Soon, Yu Xiaogang also realized his loss of composure, took a deep breath and said, "Sorry, Xiaozhen, I was too excited. Before he finished speaking, he felt a sharp pain in the wound that was involved in the excited shouting just now, and his head was spinning. Yu Xiaogang staggered and fell to the ground immediately. Tang San hurried over to support him. "Teacher, please lie down and rest first." Yu Xiaogang nodded and lay down with a pale face. In the next 2 days, the master and the apprentice talked less and the atmosphere between them became a little weird. Tang San's performance was still impeccable. He was a good student who respected his teacher and took good care of Yu Xiaogang. But Yu Xiaogang could clearly feel that Tang San had a kind of rejection and alienation towards him. It seems that he probably thought that my theory was wrong and that I had cheated him. Yu Xiaogang sighed in his heart. The good seedlings that he had finally got were gone. Alas, I'm so miserable. The next few days were spent in the weird atmosphere between the two. When Tang San and Yu Xiaogang set out on the road back to Confronting college, Zhang Tianyu had stopped observing them. Because the trial period of the Jianghu function had expired, even if Zhang Tianyu monitored them, he could not do it. After completing the task, he chose to turn on the live map function. Relatively speaking, the importance of the live map function is greater than that of the Jianghu function. The live map can not only determine the location of the person he wants to find, whether it is to find someone, chase or escape, it is very useful, and when he meets some people he doesn't know, but may be very important, he can also use the map viewing function to check their identities, and can also calculate the gap between him and others, knowing himself and the enemy. Although the Jianghu function can monitor the current status of others in real time, it cannot monitor when the other party is taking a shower, going to the toilet or doing sexu, because it is necessary to respect the other party's privacy. And the most important point is that, if you want to add someone to the Jianghu list to monitor, you must first know that person, at least meet him, and leave an impression on him, before you can add him to the list for viewing. For example, he can't view Bibidong now, because in this life, Bibidong has not seen him yet and has no impression of him. There is no Bibidong in the Jianghu list, and he can't see what Bibidong is doing now. A few days later, Tang San finally returned to Confronting college with the half-dead Yu Xiaogang. Zhang Tianyu, who got the news, naturally came to Yu Xiaogang's office to visit them immediately. Seeing Yu Xiaogang lying on the sofa, Zhang Tianyu asked in surprise, "What happened? Did you encounter any danger?" Tang San said, "I encountered a 400-year-old mandrake snake, and the teacher was injured by it." "Oh my god. 400 years." Zhang Tianyu was shocked. "Are you okay, Asan? Asan?" Tang San was stunned at first, and then his face was painful. "What kind of nickname is this? Why does this name sound so stupid and speechless?" But it doesn't matter, Asan is Asan. After all, Zhang Tianyu is his best friend now, and although the nickname Asan is a bit unpleasant, it seems to be more pleasant to Tang San than the nickname Zio-san. "I'm fine," Tang San said. "I even killed the snake in the end, and sucked its spirit ring." Zhang Tianyu was surprised. "Really? Your first spirit ring absorbed a 400-year-old mandrake snake? Wow. Awesome, brother. Come on, let me see it. Seeing Zhang Tianyu's surprise, Tang San's heart was filled with warmth. Look. This is what a true friend looks like. A true friend will be happy for you from the bottom of his heart, because you get something good, instead of being jealous. Tang San obediently showed his first spirit ring. Looking at the whitish yellow spirit ring, Zhang Tianyu smiled and said, awesome, the first spirit ring is so strong. The spirit rings behind will definitely be stronger. I wonder who dares to say that your blue silver grass martial spirit is not good. If it really is not good, how could the first spirit ring be 100 years old? Tang San said with a little shame, it's just a pity that there was a small problem when absorbing it, so it caused a part of the energy of the spirit ring to be lost, and now it's not 400 years old. The corner of Yu Xiaogang's eye twitched violently. That's pretty good, Zhang Tianyu said. Look at those people in our academy. Their first spirit rings are all 10 years old, including many teachers. San, you are already very good. Part of the loss of your spirit ring energy is because of me, so why don't you thank me quickly? Thank you, Tianyu. Thank you for your encouragement. Tang San said with some emotion. After returning to the academy, you are the first and only one to come and see me, Tianyu. Thank you so much. We are best friends. Don't say these polite words. So are you staying here to take care of the master now? Yu Xiaogang immediately said, I'm much better now. Xiaozan, you haven't eaten or slept well these days. Go to the cafeteria to have some food first, and then go back to the dormitory with Tianyu to rest. Tang San looked at him and said, teacher, your injury is not healed yet. I will stay to take care of you. No need. Yu Xiaogang shook his head, showing a somewhat dull smile on his face. I was wandering on the mainland in my early years, and I suffered a lot of injuries. This is nothing. It's almost healed. You go. Okay then, teacher. You should have a good rest too. I will bring you some food later. Tang San had just left. Yu Xiaogang had just laid down to take a few breaths, and suddenly he was shocked, and suddenly saw a tall black figure standing in the shadow of the corner of the office. Who are you? Yu Xiaogang was startled, and sat up with difficulty. A figure walked out of the shadows. This was a tall man with a resolute face. He was shrouded in an unfathomable aura. I'm Tang Heo. Yu Xiaogang was shocked. Tang, you are Heoshan. Before he finished speaking, a powerful aura suddenly burst out from Tang Heo's body. This aura was so strong that it directly shook Yu Xiaogang away and hit the wall. A mouthful of blood spurted out of Yu Xiaogang's mouth. On the Pan continent, I have never heard of anyone's soul skills getting out of control. Tang Heo said in a deep voice, now my son has absorbed that soul ring because of your theory, and then his soul skills are out of control. Are you sure that your theory is correct? Chapter 21. Why did the injury get worse? Yu Xiaogang was completely stunned. His internal organs seemed to be shattered, his brain was buzzing, and the world was spinning. Fortunately, Tang Heo showed mercy, and after more than 10 seconds, Yu Xiaogang recovered. He finally understood that Tang San was Tang Heo's son. At this moment, Yu Xiaogang's heart was cold. Damn it, if I had known that Tang San was Tang Heo's son, how could I dare to accept him as a disciple? Exclamation mark. I thought this was the descendant of a disciple who was expelled from the Heoshan sect. It's over. It's over. This has caused a big trouble. As the eldest son of the upper three sects, Yu Xiaogang knew something about what happened to Tang Heo. He knew that Tang Heo's wife had died, and he had only this one son for so many years. If something happened to this son, Tang Heo would definitely tear him apart. So in a flash, he thought of a good excuse and said, so Tang San's father is you. You have always been my idol. Stop talking nonsense. Tang Heo scolded coldly, I'm asking you now, what is the reason why his spirit skills are out of control? This. Yu Xiaogang's cold sweat instantly flowed down. Actually, I don't know too much. I will definitely find out the reason and solve this problem. Tang Heo looked at him and didn't say anything. For a boss of this level, the sense of oppression is even stronger if he doesn't speak. Cold sweat seeped from Yu Xiaogang's forehead and back like a waterfall. Soon, Yu Xiaogang trembled all over because of fear. This sense of oppression. This is the sense of oppression of a titled Douluo. Oh no. My heart. It's about to be crushed. Just when Yu Xiaogang was about to give up, Tang Heo finally spoke. I hope you will do what you say. I don't want to be attacked from behind by my son's spirit skill when I fight side by side with him in the future. As soon as he opened his mouth, the oppressive feeling disappeared immediately. Yu Xiaogang hurriedly said, of course. The first thing I plan to do after I come back is to find out the reason why the spirit skill is out of control and then solve this problem. I will definitely find out the reason and solve the problem. After all, he is also my student. I'm telling the truth and I don't mean anything else. Don't get me wrong. I have never been married and have no children. I really like Tang San. In my eyes, he is not only my student, but I also regard him as half a son. So I will definitely solve this problem. Please believe me. Tang Heo took a deep breath and stared at Yu Xiaogang carefully again. This time, Yu Xiaogang did not avoid or fear, but looked into his eyes calmly. This made him seem sincere. If he was dodging at this time, Tang Heo would most likely kill him directly. This titled Douluo is a super ruthless man. A super ruthless man who even dares to beat the Pope. I heard that he even injured the Pope. This ruthless man is not afraid of the Pope and the Spirit Hall. So how could he be soft-hearted to a small useless spirit master like him? Even though he is Tang San's teacher now, even though Tang San may respect him, but in Tang Heo's eyes, it was he who caused Tang San's spirit skills to go out of control. Therefore, in order to save his life, Yu Xiaogang took out the super acting skills he had studied all his life. In the end, he succeeded. Tang Heo saw the sincerity in his eyes, nodded and said, okay, I will give you a chance. Next time I come, I hope to see that this problem has been solved. Next time. Yu Xiaogang was slightly stunned. Are you going to leave here? But you are Xiao-san's son. Xiao-san can't leave. I have something I have to deal with. As he said, Tang Heo took out his elder order and threw it to Yu Xiaogang. Remember your promise. Take good care of him for me. After that, Tang Heo flew out of the window and disappeared. The strong oppressive aura that had been lingering around also completely disappeared with Tang Heo's departure. Yu Xiaogang finally collapsed on the sofa as if exhausted. Only then did he realize that his clothes were almost soaked with sweat. He is indeed a titled Douluo. He almost killed him without even moving his hands. Thinking of this, Yu Xiaogang felt even more sad. If his martial soul had not mutated into such a rubbish state, then with his previous talent and ability, at this age, he would have at least become a soul Douluo, not to mention a titled Douluo. But now, he can only be a great soul master in a decadent way. Suddenly, he spit out a mouthful of blood. Although Tang Heo had shown mercy just now, it still affected his injuries. His injuries were almost healed, but now they are even more serious. Alas. Why am I so unlucky? At this moment, the door opened. Yu Xiaogang shuddered all over and turned around to see Tang San walking in with some food. Teacher, I brought you some food. Ah. Teacher, what happened to you? Seeing Yu Xiaogang vomiting blood, Tang San was stunned. Wasn't he almost well? Why did he vomit blood again? He quickly put down his lunchbox and walked to Yu Xiaogang to feel his pulse, and then he was stunned on the spot. Teacher, what happened? Why is your injury worse? Yu Xiaogang. He really couldn't say anything and wanted to cry, but had no tears. You still ask me? It was your father who beat me. Damn. It's really hard to be your teacher. Why did I become your teacher at that time? Now because of your soul skill out of control, I dare not cancel the master-disciple relationship with you. Otherwise Tang Heo will definitely not forgive me. And if I can't find the reason for the soul skill out of control, Tang Heo probably won't forgive me either. What should I do? Ah. God. I'm so unlucky. Zhang Tianyu, who was standing behind Tang San, watched this scene. His face was as worried as Tang San's, but he was laughing wildly in his heart. That's right, he was laughing wildly. Oh my, history is always surprisingly similar. In the previous life, after returning from the soul hunting forest, Yu Xiaogang was beaten by Tang Heo. After returning from the forest in this life, Yu Xiaogang was beaten by Tang Heo again. As expected, Emporio. The enlightened are always happy. Even after experiencing a rebirth and reset, even if everything returns to the starting point and starts again, the destined fate cannot be changed. Accept your fate. Yu Xiaogang. Teacher, what happened just now? Why did your injury suddenly worsen again? Tang San asked again with concern. Yu Xiaogang looked at Tang San, his lips trembling, but he couldn't say a word. After being beaten by his father, he was cared for by his son again. It's killing people. Finally, Yu Xiaogang couldn't stand this kind of mental stimulation, and with his injuries getting worse, his eyes rolled up, and he fainted on the sofa. Chapter 22 Tang San, your father is gone. Teacher. Tang San was shocked. I'll go find the dean. Zhang Tianyu quickly left Yu Xiaogang's office. Really, if he didn't leave, he would laugh out loud on the spot. After a series of rescues, Yu Xiaogang finally woke up again. Looking at Tang San's tired appearance, Zhang Tianyu laughed even louder in his heart. Tang Heo is really the best assist. Tang San is also very tired now, and needs to rest urgently. Originally, Tang San sent the meal over, and let Yu Xiaogang finish eating and rest. He also went back to the dormitory to rest, and that was it. Now Tang Heo beat Yu Xiaogang, making Yu Xiaogang's injuries worse, which is equivalent to creating some trouble for Tang San. Tang San has to drag his tired body here, to take care of Yu Xiaogang. TSK, a loving father and a filial son. Leaving Yu Xiaogang's office, Zhang Tianyu felt refreshed. How to relieve worries? Only to pit gang. A peaceful month passed. This month, Zhang Tianyu was still the same as before, carefree, going to class, eating, and flirting with Xiao Wu every day. But Tang San and Yu Xiaogang had a hard month. Tang San, Xiao Wu and Zhang Tianyu went to the Spirit Hall together to complete the registration and receive the Spirit Master subsidy, but Tang San was not happy at all. The first reason was naturally because the Spirit Ring energy exploded when absorbing the Spirit Ring, and the second reason was because of the loss of control of the Spirit skills, especially when Master Ma Xiunho learned that Tang San absorbed the Spirit Ring of the Mandragora snake. He was amazed and asked, plant-type spirits can actually absorb the spirit rings of animal spirit beasts. Tang San was not happy or proud at all, but only full of worries. As I said, no matter how strong the spirit skills are, they are all garbage if they are not controlled. Yu Xiaogang had a very hard month. Even when he was recovering from his injuries, he dragged his injured body to find the dean and asked about the out of control of soul skills. But the dean didn't know. The dean thought that this grandson was going to publish a paper on out of control of soul skills, and said that he had never heard of this situation and was powerless. So Yu Xiaogang was like crazy. Regardless of the pain in his body, he kept looking up various documents every day, looking for various friends who still had some contact to ask. Of course, he also asked Flanders, but there was no valuable response. At the beginning, he was full of hope and felt that he would definitely find the reason. As long as he found the reason, he could find a solution. But after a month, there was no gain, which made him very painful and depressed. It also made him very scared, because he didn't know when Tang Heo would come. If Tang Heo came, and he hadn't solved this problem, then Tang Heo might not beat him up, but kill him. Because Tang Heo now thinks that he ruined Tang San's first soul skill. What should I do? What should I do? What should I do? Yu Xiaogang sat at his desk, grabbing his hair, and muttering to himself. His face was very pale, his pupils were a little sluggish, his beard was untidy, and his eyes were dark, as if he was about to die in your phone. There was a knock on the door. Who? Yu Xiaogang jumped up like a frightened cat. Teacher, it's me. Tang San's voice came from outside the door. Come in. Yu Xiaogang quickly adjusted his state. Teacher, haven't you found any relevant records yet? Tang San asked. Yu Xiaogang sighed deeply and shook his head. Tang San was silent for a few seconds and said, Teacher, I have an idea. What? I want to go to the playground to try out my soul skill. Tang San said, maybe there was just some problem with my control at that time. Yu Xiaogang was silent. How could this thing have a control problem? Tang San continued, even if there is a chance of losing control, I just want to see how high the chance is. Yu Xiaogang stood up somewhat weakly. Okay, let's go together. Anyway, there is no other way now, so why not give it a try? On the playground, Tang San used it again and again, and after his spirit power was exhausted, he did not lose control again. Yu Xiaogang's eyes finally brightened a little. Let's stop here today. Go back and have a good rest. Recover your spirit power. And we will try again tomorrow. Okay, teacher. Just like that, another month passed, and Tang San kept using this spirit skill, and he never lost control again. Yu Xiaogang said in a low voice, is it really just an accident, that the loss of control was just an accident? Is it really just that Xiao San used his spirit skill for the first time, so he is not very good at controlling it? Although he didn't know if the truth was like this, at least this was an explanation. Yu Xiaogang made up his mind to continue looking for the reason in the next few days. If he couldn't find any other reason, he would tell Tang Heo this excuse as he met him in the future. If Tang Heo didn't agree and wanted to kill him, he would have no choice but to accept his fate and wait for death. The next few days finally returned to peace. Soon, the holiday came as scheduled, and every student happily packed their luggage and prepared to go home. Only Xiao Wu didn't look very happy, and even a little sad. Xiaoyu, Xiao Wu, what are your plans for the holiday? Tang San asked, after packing his luggage. After getting along for this semester, the three of them had become very good friends, and they had also become a love triangle. Of course, this love triangle may not be the same as the one you imagined, because the protagonist of this love triangle is not Xiao Wu. I don't know, Zhang Tianyu said, I'm the only one left at home, so there's no point in going back. In the setting, Zhang Tianyu is still an orphan. The Zhang family used to be a family that inherited the martial spirit as a sword, but later it was destroyed, leaving only Zhang Tianyu as the only child. Xiao Wu was stunned and said, Tianyu and I are in a similar situation. Tang San didn't ask much, but just said gently, in that case, why don't you go to my house with me to play? Can you go? Xiao Wu asked with blinking eyes. Of course, my father will definitely be very happy to see you go back with me. Tang San said, with a feeling of longing in his heart. He was an orphan all his life in his previous life, and he finally had a father in this life, so he still cherished it. But your father is gone, isn't he? He's gone. Zhang Tianyu said in his heart, and no one knows where he went, and it's not written in the book. He planted Ayan somewhere, the system said at this time, so he might have gone to have sex. Zhang Tianyu. If this is true, then it is really a moral decline and a distortion of human nature. Xiaoyu, let's go. Okay, Xiao Wu said, while holding Zhang Tianyu's arm. Looking at the intimate actions of the two, Tang San felt a blockage in his heart. Chapter 23, what are you leaning on? You are not sick at all. Holy Spirit Village, Tang San's home. Finally back to his home, Tang San's joy almost overflowed the screen, because he had eaten dog food all the way. What kind of relationship is that between Zhang Tianyu and Xiao Wu? It is a relationship that comes from sleeping in the same bed. Even though Xiao Wu is rich now, and has bought her own quilt, and now they no longer sleep together, the relationship between the two of them is still closer than the relationship between them and Tang San. Therefore, they are showing off their affection, and abusing each other in various ways along the way. Tang San is smiling on the surface, but in fact he is full of humiliation in his heart. I also want to flirt with Xiaoyu. No, I also want to join in. Damn it. Why can I only watch from the side? Now that he has finally returned home, he can finally see his father Tang Heo, and finally stop eating dog food. He finally breathed a sigh of relief. However, after stepping into the house with joy, he excitedly shouted, Dad. After that, it was not his father Tang Heo who he thought about day and night who came out, but his old village chief, Old Man Jack. Oh, it's Xiao San who's back. Old Jack came out of the house holding a letter. Looking at this familiar scene, Zhang Tianyu felt more and more that this old guy was not serious. The three of them came here talking and laughing, making such a loud noise, especially Tang San. The closer he got to home, the louder he spoke. Even a deaf person could hear him, but old guy Jack pretended not to hear it. He had to wait until Tang San entered the house and shouted Dad before he appeared. Damn it, it was obvious that he just wanted to take advantage of this. He was such a disrespectful old man. So, should I issue a task to trick him? Zhang Tianyu said to the system in his heart. System. Guys, you've been talking for so long, just to trick him. That's a must. In the last life, after Yu Xiaogang came back from the soul hunting forest, you issued another task to trick him, and then Tang Heo beat him up. I completed the task and everyone was happy. As a result, this time, Tang Heo beat him up again, but you didn't issue a task. I didn't get some gains, so I have to get them back from somewhere else. Anyway, I've been looking at old Jack for a long time, so I just tricked him. Hint, activate the task, you man. You are disrespectful to the elderly, I'll take your head. Task requirements, trick the village chief old Jack once, no limit on the method, no limit on the means, no limit on the consequences. You can kill him, but you can't expose yourself. Task reward, reward points plus 10. Killing him is fine, there is no grudge. Zhang Tianyu coughed in his heart, but isn't 10 points a bit too little? The system didn't answer. Well, old Jack is just an ordinary person, the task difficulty is too low, and the reward can't be too much. Without even thinking, Zhang Tianyu gave old Jack a hard job. Force backflip. Grandpa Jack? Why is it you? Where is my dad? Tang San asked in confusion. Old Jack sighed in a pretentious manner, and handed the letter to Tang San. Take a look, this is what your father left. I came to see him this morning, and I wanted him to go with me to pick you up, but I didn't expect you to be back. Tang San was shocked, and a sense of foreboding surged in his heart. With trembling hands, he opened the letter, and saw the content he least wanted to see. Xiao-san, when you see this letter, I'm gone. Don't miss me. Tang Heo. Looking at the paper in his hand, Tang San was stunned, and his joy turned into helpless loss in an instant. Dad is gone. Dad, why did you leave? Old Jack looked at Tang San's absent-minded look, and said with a wry smile, there was no sign that Tang Heo had left. The day before yesterday, I asked him to make farm tools. Now that he's gone, we have to find another blacksmith. This guy is so irresponsible. Tang San slowly came back to his senses. Grandpa Jack, you mean, Dad just left in the past 2 days? Old Jack nodded. He should have left in the past 2 days. Xiao-san, don't be sad. It's not worth it for a dad like that. Come with Grandpa to my house. Tang San shook his head silently, folded the paper in his hand carefully, and put it in his arms. Thank you, Grandpa Jack. The house is so messy, I won't ask you to stay. I still need to clean it up. Old Jack was stunned for a moment. He didn't expect that the little Tang San actually ordered him to leave. He sighed and said, okay, but if you need anything, just come to me. He shook his head helplessly and turned to walk outside. The atmosphere in the room suddenly became dull, as if the air had stopped flowing. Looking at Tang San, who looked lost and lonely, Zhang Tianyu and Xiao Wu were about to comfort him when they suddenly heard a discordant voice. Fuck. Go. Ignore. The three of them were stunned, and when they turned around, they saw that old Jack, who had already walked out of the door, did a backflip in the confused eyes of everyone. Tang San and Xiao Wu were stunned. Zhang Tianyu also tried his best to show a confused and sluggish state. In fact, he almost laughed out loud. It's worthy of being called force backflip. It's amazing. Old Jack originally needed crutches to walk, but now he threw away the crutches and did a backflip directly. It's a medical miracle. The originally dull atmosphere in the room was swept away in an instant. Everyone stared at old Jack stupidly, and Tang San's eyes were wide open, as if he had met this old man for the first time. What happened just now? Old Jack stood, firm with a confused look on his face. Where's my walking stick? Why do I feel a little dizzy? Ouch. What's wrong with my leg? Why do I feel like it's stretched? Ouch ouch. As old Jack's leg was stretched, and he didn't know where he had thrown his walking stick, he sat down on the ground with a thump. Grandpa Jack. Tang San was shocked, and ran over to help him up. Ouch. Xiao-san. What happened to me? Jack said while holding his leg. Why did my walking stick suddenly disappear? Then I felt dizzy and my legs hurt. Tang San. Xiao Wu. So you didn't know that you suddenly did a backflip for no reason? Exclamation mark. I thought you were afraid that Tang San would be too sad, so you did a backflip to cheer him up. But you didn't even know that you did a backflip just now? This is outrageous. You are old, and your memory is not good. Tang San didn't say anything else, just said, Grandpa Jack, I didn't expect you to be so strong. Old Jack. Chapter 24. It doesn't matter if my dad is gone. That night, Zhang Tianyu, Xiaogang and Tang San sat at the dining table and ate the dinner Tang San made. I didn't expect your cooking skills to be so good, Xiao-san. Xiaogang said. Tang San smiled naively. I used to cook most of the meals at home. No wonder. Then Tang San looked at the two of them with some emotion. Thank you for accompanying me. Don't be polite, we are best friends. Xiaogang said. Don't be depressed. Your father is just leaving temporarily. One day, you will meet again. Maybe, his departure is just to make you grow better and make you stronger. If you continue like this, wouldn't it be a waste of his efforts? Tang San showed a bitter smile on his face. Maybe, but why didn't he let me see him again? Xiaogang, you know, dad is my only relative. Without dad, the home is no longer a home. Xiaogang smiled. Without dad, you still have me as a friend. If you must find a relative, I don't mind being your sister. Come on, call me sister Xiaogang. Everyone calls me that, only you are the exception. Zhang Tianyu thought to himself. Xiaogang, you are really good at talking. Your little mouth is smeared with honey. What do you mean by without dad, good guy? Is it okay to just say someone's father is gone? Of course, I also think it's best if Tang San doesn't have a father. Zhang Tianyu certainly can't fall behind. Then he said, yes, even if you don't have a father, you still have a brother like me. Call Tianyu brother and let me hear it. Tang San smiled. Although he didn't answer, his expression and eyes obviously looked much better than before. Zhang Tianyu thought to himself that Tang San was really a filial son. Hearing the word no father, he didn't even show any resistance. So you really can't hear that there is something wrong with this sentence, or are you pretending not to hear it? Zhang Tianyu was not wrong. In the original plot, Xiaogang did say no father, you still have a friend like me. As a result, Tang San really didn't hear that there was anything wrong with this sentence. So no father also met Tang San's expectations. Tang San recovered his mood and began to clean up the dishes. Zhang Tianyu brought Xiaogang to the hill where Tang San captured Xiaogang. Yes, they were going to pick up Tang San's girls in Tang San's holy place for picking up girls. This is the ritual of picking up girls. Xiaogang bathed in the moonlight was like a goddess, of course, an underage goddess. Just when Zhang Tianyu was thinking about what tricks he would use to get Xiaogang this time, the system suddenly sent out a prompt. Received the task, picking up girls is a tough job. Task requirements, trick Xiaogang, and at the same time win Xiaogang's favor, so that Xiaogang is willing to become someone close to you. There is no limit on the method, means, or consequences, but it is best not to cause her death, otherwise the task will fail. Task rewards, soul level +2, reward points +20, random soul bone unlocking degree +50%. Zhang Tianyu was about to complain about the system being ruthless and even wanting to trick Xiaogang, but after hearing about the task rewards, he immediately became interested. Random soul bones? You tell me first, is it a random one of all types and grades, or a random one from the soul bone set in the previous life? In his previous life, he was about to get a set of soul bones, but he didn't expect to encounter such a thing. Everything was reset, everything was back to zero, and he started over. So although he didn't say it, it was indeed a big regret in his heart. Hint, no comment. Dear host, you will know after the task is completed. Zhang Tianyu shrugged. Well, he had no choice, whether it was a set of soul bones or not, and the reward of the task was not something he could decide. He only needed to think about how to complete the task and get the reward. So this time the task was to trick Xiaogang. Good guy. In his previous life, he complained about the system because of a misunderstanding that it would actually release a task to trick Xiaogang. But in this life, there was no need to complain. It was released directly. While tricking Xiaogang, he also had to gain Xiaogang's favor. TSK. This really treats Xiaogang as an idiot. However, although this task requirement sounds outrageous, it is still very simple to achieve, because if you think about it carefully, isn't this the kind of plot? The male protagonist finds someone to pretend to be a gangster to bully the female protagonist, and then the male protagonist steps forward to drive away the gangster and save the female protagonist, and the female protagonist who is rescued by the hero falls in love with the male protagonist from then on. Here, the little gangster is replaced by some invisible bad luck and troubles, but the essence remains unchanged, so Zhang Tianyu quickly made a simple and rough plan in his mind. The night wind blew, blowing up the hair and sleeves of the two people. Xiao Wu lay among the flowers and plants on the top of the mountain, enjoying the gentle breeze, looking at the clear big moon in the sky, took a few deep breaths and said, "Wow, it's so comfortable to lie here." Zhang Tianyu nodded and said, "Yeah." At the same time, he smiled in his heart. Comfortable? It will be more comfortable later. The next second, Xiao Wu, who originally had a comfortable face, suddenly changed her expression, frowned, and sat up suddenly. Zhang Tianyu was startled by her sudden action and asked, "What's wrong?" Xiao Wu frowned, but didn't say much, shook her head and said, "Nothing." Zhang Tianyu nodded. Xiao Wu continued to lie down, and Zhang Tianyu continued to lie beside Xiao Wu, but before the two of them talked for a few words, Xiao Wu sat up again suddenly, turned her head, and frowned at the ground, where she had just been lying. "What's wrong?" Zhang Tianyu also sat up, looking back at the place where the two had just been lying, and asked curiously. Xiao Wu was silent for a few seconds, but the expression on her face was still not relaxed, and she said, "Did you feel that there was something moving under our bodies just now?" Zhang Tianyu scratched his head and looked at the ground. The flowers and plants, where they had just been lying, had been flattened, but there was nothing else under the flattened flowers and plants. "No, what happened?" Zhang Tianyu asked. Xiao Wu was silent for several seconds, shook her head and said, "It's okay, maybe it's my illusion, or there may be some bugs." So the two of them changed places and continued to lie on the ground, watching the moonlight and chatting in the evening breeze. What Xiao Wu didn't know was that Tang San was standing not far away and looking at them with a very complicated and tangled expression on his face. This was the place where he had practiced since he was a child, and he liked the beautiful scenery here very much, so he had thought about bringing someone who was very close to him to share the beautiful scenery here in the future. But he didn't expect that his very good person came, but it was not him who was with that person. Pain. Chapter 25. Let me see. Soon, Tang San left with a sad face. Zhang Tianyu found out through the monitoring of the live map that he had left here and returned to his home, and that he and Xiao Wu were the only two people alive in this area, so he felt relieved. After lying with Xiao Wu for a while, Xiao Wu suddenly sat up, as if she was stung. This time her expression changed obviously. She frowned and looked alert, as if she was facing a great enemy, and looked carefully at the place where she had just been lying. "What's the matter?" Zhang Tianyu stood up, looked at Xiao Wu, and then looked at the ground. "Do you feel something moving under your body again?" Xiao Wu nodded and immediately asked, "You felt it too?" Zhang Tianyu also frowned. "It seemed a little, but I didn't pay much attention to it." Xiao Wu was surprised. "Didn't pay attention?" "I felt like something tough and elastic was sweeping my back." Zhang Tianyu was stunned and quickly said, "Turn around so I can see your back." Xiao Wu immediately turned around, put her hands up to braid her scorpion braids, and showed her back to Zhang Tianyu. Zhang Tianyu looked at it for a while and said, "Everything is normal, and I don't see any dirt on your back." "That's really strange." Xiao Wu put down her hair. "Is there a snake here? Could it be that a snake was drilling under our backs just now?" Thinking of that scene, Xiao Wu couldn't help but shudder. Zhang Tianyu shrugged and smiled. "We are both soul masters of level 10. How can we be afraid of ordinary snakes? With our strength, do ordinary snakes dare to approach us casually? Soul masters all have a kind of deterrent aura. Although this deterrent has little effect on powerful soul beasts, it is still very intimidating to ordinary wild beasts. Ordinary wild beasts dare not approach soul masters at all." "That's true." Xiao Wu was relieved. "Then, what was that strange feeling I had just now?" Although she was not so panicked, she did not dare to lie on the ground anymore, so she sat on the ground with Zhang Tianyu and looked at the moon. Zhang Tianyu said, "What are your plans for the next few days? We can't always live in Asen's house. Although his father is gone, it doesn't have a good impact. Xiao Wu thought about it seriously and said, then we can only go back to Notting City and take advantage of the holiday to stroll around the city, eat, drink and have fun. Zhang Tianyu looked helpless. Miss, eating, drinking and having fun require money. Xiao Wu said, we are soul masters. Are we afraid of having no money? Zhang Tianyu gave a thumbs up. Well said. So when will you pay me back the 6 silver coins you owe me? Xiao Wu was immediately embarrassed. Oh, I'll pay you back when I get the subsidy next time. Zhang Tianyu stopped talking, just shrugged his shoulders. She said this every time, but every time she got the subsidy, she spent it before she could even warm it up. In the original plot, if it weren't for Tang San's help, she would have starved back to the forest in no time. Now it's Zhang Tianyu who's taking care of her. So where do you think we should go next? Xiao Wu asked. I don't know. Zhang Tianyu sighed. I'm the only one left in my family. I thought I could go wherever I want freely, but in the end I found that it's really easy to be free and go wherever I want, but it's also very lonely. Xiao Wu fell silent, hugged her knees, and looked into the distance quietly, with a shimmering look in her eyes. Suddenly Xiao Wu asked, Tianyu, do you know how your parents passed away? Zhang Tianyu said, I heard that it was because of some hatred. I don't know the details. Xiao Wu nodded and was about to speak, but suddenly her expression changed abruptly, and she reached out to grab behind her. Seeing her sudden movement, Zhang Tianyu immediately asked, what's wrong? What happened? My back. Xiao Wu grabbed her back and said anxiously, there is something on my back. Quick, help me check it out. Okay. Zhang Tianyu immediately came behind her, but I didn't find anything. It's here. Xiao Wu pointed to a place on the back with her finger. It's here. Ah, it's moved here now. It's like something is crawling. Tianyu, help me check it out. Zhang Tianyu leaned closer and looked carefully, and said in a daze, I really didn't find anything. How could it be? Xiao Wu's heart began to panic. She clearly felt something crawling on her back, so why couldn't Zhang Tianyu see it? At this time, she felt that thing crawling faster and faster on her back, moving more and more obviously, and more wantonly. She was getting more and more panicked, because the unknown is the most terrifying, especially now. Even Zhang Tianyu can't see what is moving on her back. Damn it. It's moving faster and faster. Xiao Wu became more and more panicked. Tianyu, can you really not see anything moving? I really didn't see it. Xiao Wu, Zhang Tianyu said anxiously, how can I joke with you about this kind of thing? Could it be? Zhang Tianyu was about to say, could it be under the clothes? Xiao Wu seemed to know what he was thinking, gritted her teeth, closed her eyes, and made up her mind. Whoosh. She took off her top abruptly. Swish. A smooth, white, and tender back appeared in front of Zhang Tianyu. This skin is really too perfect, soft and delicate, white and smooth, and can even reflect the moonlight. Outrageous. Is this a layer of paint? Exclamation mark. Ahem. Of course, this is not the point. The point is, I didn't expect Xiao Wu to be so single. Originally, he thought he had to persuade Xiao Wu to take off her clothes, but he didn't expect that Xiao Wu took off her clothes without him saying anything. Awesome. She is worthy of being an old sister and senior who has transformed for 100,000 years. This kind of courage is not something that I, a junior, have. Looking at this beautiful back, Zhang Tianyu's thoughts instantly flew back to the last life. At this moment, it seemed as if he had returned to the last life, when they were happy. Quick, Tianyu, help me see what's on my back. Xiao Wu didn't care about anything else and asked quickly. Okay. Zhang Tianyu answered quickly, looked carefully, and said, I still don't find anything wrong. Xiao Wu, are you sure you didn't feel it wrong? Xiao Wu was confused at this time, because she found that the strange feeling on her back disappeared after she took off her clothes. So, is it a problem with the clothes? She immediately threw the clothes on the ground and looked at them carefully, but the clothes were fine. Then she raised her head and met Zhang Tianyu's eyes. At this moment, she blushed. Oh, you blush. Come on, let me see. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.